goes to interview. The warning of the president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, to the entire continent anytime he goes to interviews and speak about these stateless people is being confirmed by the Nigerian politicians. Anytime he go to interview, you will not agree with me now. After I play some couple of videos, you hear things, you will agree with me. The man was warning the entire continent, including Nigeria and everybody, hosting these people in the name of negotiation. He said, if you are negotiating with these people, your negotiation doesn't stop them from operating. It only look. The warning of the president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, to the entire continent anytime he goes to interviews and speak about these stateless people is being confirmed by the Nigerian politicians. Anytime he go to interview, you will not agree with me now. After I play some couple of videos, you hear things, you will agree with me. The man was warning the entire continent, including Nigeria and everybody, hosting these people in the name of negotiation. He said, if you are negotiating with these people, your negotiation doesn't stop them from operating. It only keeps them in your country. The thing they are getting from the negotiation, they are no longer getting it, or it lack. Or if they want to attack, they will blame it on you for breaking part of the negotiation deal, and they will attack because they are on agenda, and your negotiation only place them to stay in your country and finish the agenda, not to stop them. So any country hosting these people, including Ivory Coast, what is going to happen at the end is that when they are done with their target, then they turn against you. The president of Burkina Faso said, this is what we are having on the continent and these people operating on the continent of Africa. It is not terrorism, it is imperialism. Those of you will be wondering what exactly I'm talking about. You just wait. I have some couple of videos. Since the time the president of the United States, Donald Trump, issued warning to the Nigerian government, things that we are not hearing constantly in the news begin to pop up. It looked like the Nigerian army, they were sleeping, and Donald Trump just woke them up. Things that the politicians in Nigeria kept quiet about are now being spewed out. These people are saying things that you ask yourself, are these the politicians in charge of the Nigeria that we say is the giant of Africa? That is not all. Things that some of the missionaries in Nigeria knew about, and they kept quiet over it. They are now releasing them. Now, it looks like everybody is now speaking and things are coming out. And family, this must surprise you that the problem that Nigeria is facing, everything that I'm going to present to you in this video that you are going to watch, these are things that the president of Burkina Faso have been warning about, and these are things that have been saying that it is happening. The man narrated exactly what Burkina Faso president is saying, which means that on the continent of Africa, it is one problem facing us, and we need to deal with it with one mindset. As Burkina Faso is dealing with it, we need to clap for this man, because this man is a savior who understands the situation, the source of the situation, and the man is dealing with the source directly, informing the continent also. Let's listen to the first video.
I served on the Boko Haram committee. Now, 2 plus 2 at times has to be equal to 4. So even if I can't give you 4, but I can give you 2 plus 2, we will then have to come to the conclusion that I'm giving you 4. I served on that committee, and villagers kept telling us that in the middle of the night, helicopters piloted by white people kept landing and offloading guns, goods, and all kinds of and money to these people. Now, villagers they don't even know who these white people are. And they have no reason to lie to us. Now, we made a mistake. When I said some of us on the Boko Haram committee made a mistake. We thought it was the French that were doing this. Now we have an American congressman said no.
Okay, folks, once again, this is Frank. I'm still behind the stage. So we're gonna be on like 1 p.m. But as usual, we usually do this to get the audience prepared, and also what you are watching is going to be part of the topic. Now, the reason why I paused this video, I want you to understand something, right? The narrator said we are part of the problem because we feared that the French were the main instigator, right? But later on, we got to know that the US, are the main problem with jihadi. That's what he's trying to say, jihadi or axis. Now, I want to bring your attention to something because maybe some of you may not get it and some of you may get it. All right. So the reason why he said we thought the French were the problem, but we got to know that it wasn't the French. That doesn't mean the French was not involved. And then he said we got to know that it was the American, the United States. What that means is that let me be specific on my word, right? What I mean is that he's trying to say they were getting some kind of advice from the US, and that advice was wrong. What happened here, folks? The Nigerian government went in and made a deal with Boko Haram. All right, the Nigerian government went in and make a deal with Boko Haram. Look, folks, last week we said it is not about Christian versus Muslim. The United States is using that means to bring war on the African continent. Come on, guys, please. You guys see what I'm recording. The United States is using that means to bring war on the African continent, which, if we're not careful, is going to be religious war, right? We said that last week, right? Now, and this government official sat here and he told, or he's telling us, they realized that they made mistake. Now, I'm about to explain, I think, what he's trying to say. They realized that they made mistake. They listened to the US because under no circumstances, as a government, you see terrorists, Boko Haram, killing your people, and then you go in and make a deal with the terrorists. No wonder the Nigerian government have been silent. Look, folks, we understand what is going on in Nigeria now. We understand and we know what is going on, right? No wonder why Boko Haram in Nigeria, the government have not ever, right, made an initiative to go and fight Boko Haram when Boko Haram have been kidnapping people left and right, all right, taking people, children, girls, children, getting them even pregnant. And then before releasing them, Boko Haram in our region, basically, they are the second in command of Nigeria. So if you heard this government official saying, we made a mistake, we thought it was the French, but now knowing it was the American. Right? So now the question is, how did America come to play in this? That's the question I believe you should be asking. How did America come to place in this where a government official is saying we made a mistake, but we got to know it was the US? Folks, I think we have presented on this serious time. And again, it was not us, it was the US Congress through Donald Trump that said Boko Haram is being funded by the USAID. ISIS terrorists, these groups are being funded through the CIAs with the USAID. Now, folks, here it is. I want you to think outside of the box. Why was the Nigerian government not fighting Boko Haram? Look, for you, they'll be asking some question. It's not just because the white men speak, they will say, yeah, the white men have spoken. Hey, you know, they are coming to free Africa. Look, we have to be realistic to ourselves here. Okay? We have to be realistic to that. Before we can ask Donald Trump, or before we can ask Washington, D.C., or before we can ask the West to come and fight for us, let us be asking this kind of a question. Why have Nigeria of all Nigeria that we say it is a superpower. Come on now, guys. Come on now. Come on. Something wrong somewhere here. Something wrong somewhere here. Why Nigeria as a superpower? You know that as a superpower, right? What have Nigeria failed to take the initiative to fight Boko Haram? Come on, folks. Something is going on here. Now, here it is. Now that we have asked that question, right? We know that the United States is known of selecting puppet government in Africa, and then we call it democracy. Now, we're going to prove everything here. Everything that we say, we bring their own video, we play it. All right? So, don't be emotional. Don't get in your feeling. Relax. Relax. Okay? Relax. Because, once again, let me say this. Let me make the disclaimer. This is solely about Africa. This platform is about Africa and African people around the world. Nothing more and nothing less. So if you are coming on this platform and you think we are going to say anything that does not relate to Africa or that does not relate to black people around the world, then you are in the wrong place. Because we are pro-black. We are Pan-Africanism, or we are Pan-African. Period. This platform is a platform of Pan-Africanism. So don't deceive yourself if you are not, and then you sit here, because you are going to be frustrated. All right? Now, let's continue here. The reason why Nigeria have not taken the initiative to fight Boko Haram, and I'm going to tell you this. I will put it this way, all right? I believe, because, again, your own African can come for you, all right? So we have to be mindful. I'll use the word I believe. Let's put it that way. I want to believe Nigeria was getting advice from the US, from Washington, D.C., from CIA, not to fight Boko Haram. Why? Because according now, I'm going to be specific. Because according to the U.S. Congress, Scott Perry, the CIA also through the USAID funded Boko Haram, supported Boko Haram. Now here it is. Why will a renowned organization like the USAID, because the USAID is part of the United States government, all right? Is part of the U.S. government operating outside of the U.S. as an NGO, but they are all CIA. All right. Now, why would you think United States taxpayer will be used to support Boko Haram or to support terrorists? Then the United States put a puppet government in. And then the United States come and support the puppet government to go against the same group that they are funding and supporting. Why do you think that will happen? So that is why you see most of the Nigerian politicians have been bribed not to talk about Boko Haram, not to push any bill or fundings to support the military to fight Boko Haram. Because I want to believe, let me put it this way. I want to believe, I don't show. I'll put it that way, okay? But you understand now. I want to believe the Nigerian officials, the Nigerian government know what is going on. They got advice from Washington, D.C. not to fight Boko Haram. That is what's going on. And that's why the Nigerian government authority have been reluctant to fight Boko Haram. They told the Nigerian government to make deal with Boko Haram, with access, not to fight them. And ignorantly, the Nigerian government sat down there because they are puppet of Washington, D.C. They are puppet of NATO. They were selected to be rulers of Nigeria. Nigeria did not have a democratic leader. So that's why they have been reluctant. But you see, I'm going to play a video and you will understand what we're saying here. Today is all about video. We will play their videos. It will come a time we use article. It will come a time we will not use article. All right? But I just brought that in so that you can catch the drift of what he said or what he's saying, what he mean by, we thought it was the French. But now knowing the enemy too on the other side was giving them advice. He said, we thought it was the French. But now knowing it was the people who were giving us advice not to fight Boko Haram. It was the people who were giving us advice. They are the one that was funding Boko Haram. Folks, it's not about going in Nigeria to save Christians' life. If we are not careful, Nigeria very soon will be like Ukraine. If we are not careful, Nigeria very soon will be like Ukraine. Let's continue here.
Was the Americans who are doing this?
I think he's referring to the congressman who says that, they are funding, you get that video, right? You know, that wild viral video. Beautiful.
And when you then add that to the Obama administration refusing to sell weapons to us, to Nigeria.
So listen to this first. I just told you the USAID is part of the CIA. It's part of the United States government, operating outside of the jurisdiction of the United States as an NGO. You heard what he said. Now, how can the United States taxpayer be funding Boko Haram? And then at the same time, the United States go and stop Nigeria, run propaganda for nations not to sell arm and ammunition to Nigeria to fight Boko Haram. Folks, listen to this. I mean, are you getting it? Listen to what he said. Listen to what he said. The United States stop people, other nations, from selling arm and ammunition to Nigeria to fight Boko Haram. Meanwhile, the USAID, through the CIA with American taxpayer money, according to Scott Perry, they were funding Boko Haram. But at the same time, the US is telling people not to sell arm and ammunition to Nigeria to fight Boko Haram. Folks, this is not about the US going to fight for Christian. Listen to this, folks. It's deeper. Oh God, African, we want to learn the hard way because we are stupid. We continue to prove that we are stupid and dumb to the West.
I mean, on the grounds that we had human rights violations in the way we were dealing with Boko Haram. Not.
I'm sorry, this is really what it's going, right? Now, listen to this. The United States, the US, let me be using it because I don't want you to say the United States funding terrorists, right? But the United States, through the the USAID, funding and supporting terrorists, right? But the US is telling people not to sell ammunition to Nigeria to fight terrorists because of human rights. The US is telling Nigeria, is telling people not to sell. It's telling the Turkish government, right, and other nations that produce ammunition to sell to other nations, right, as business, right? Telling those people don't sell ammunition to Nigeria because of human rights violation. It will be violating human rights. But in the meantime, they are funding the terrorists. They are funding the Boko Haram. But they see US coming today to say we are coming to fight for Nigeria. Well, look at the Congo, the DRC Congo. Are they not Togolese? I mean, are they not Christian? Man, come on, man. The US is stop playing games, man. We have evidence upon evidence that the US is a nation of growth.
In the way we were dealing with ordinary Nigerians, where there were no security issues.
Now, that part where he said that they refused to sell weapons to them, same thing happened in Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traore, on an interview, made mention that when they were on the field, the international community refused to sell weapons to them to defend themselves. Meanwhile, when they go on the field, these stateless people, they are handling weapons that the international community refused to sell to them to defend themselves. These weapons are more advanced than the one they are holding. And they ask themselves, where do these people get it from? I believe you are connecting it, right? I don't have to talk too much. You should connect it. The same thing happening here. Because the goal is, if they sell the weapons to you, or you get weapon that is going to be more powerful than these people, you can easily defeat them. The goal is not for you to defeat them. That is the reason why Burkina Faso switched to Russia and co. Because these people, he said, they are ready to supply and sell weapons to them once they have money to buy. This is what the Burkina Faso government said. But the Western community, even if you have the money, they don't want to sell to you. They will tell you, they will give you reasons and some of the reason is that Africa is prohibited for having access to certain weapons. And they're like, they are in crisis. The same thing is happening here. So you can see that on the continent, same thing is playing all over. Let's listen forward.
Then we got a plane that was going to go and buy weapons in South Africa. Someone tipped off the South Africans. It wasn't a Nigerian who tipped off the South Africans. Who tipped off the South Africans? You have to come to a conclusion that it has to be a power that had access to information and that was able to do that. No, please, I
just wanted to ask something.
Please,
Did the
villagers
identify?
Sorry, folks, do you see the journalist? Now, this government official of Nigeria said a key thing here. Now, after the West, right, have told nations like Turkey and other nations, right, not to sell weapons to Nigeria, right? But at the same time, Washington, D.C., according to Scott Perry, they were the one funding Boko Haram. But they went to other nations, told them not to sell arms and ammunition to Nigeria because of human rights violation or whatsoever, right? Now, Nigeria decided, okay, fine. Then what can we do? Then let's go to to our own brothers and sisters in South Africa, because South Africa is an African nation, right? Anyway, let's put it that way. Okay. But even though it's controlled by the white again. But anyway, let's see. Let's continue. Let's play the devil advocate. South Africa, right, is an African nation in Africa, right? So Nigeria decided, okay, then let's go to our brothers and sisters in South Africa. I don't think they will refuse to sell us weapons. Now, on their way to South Africa, there was another call that was made in South Africa not to sell weapons to Nigerian or to Nigerian government to fight Boko Haram. Now, The professor of this Nigerian government is saying, who made that call? And he said it wasn't an African that made that call for South Africa not to sell weapons to Nigeria to fight Boko Haram. No, it was not an African. And then the journalist, boom, want to say, and then the journalist tried to take it way back and say, but did the villagers say it was American? Or folks, let's be careful who we are calling to fight for us. Ayaka. You know, the devil can come as an angel. The devil can come as an angel. And when you are in that position of need, and especially when you are so desperate, that's the time the devil can come as an angel. The devil don't come when you are not desperate. No way. The devil cannot come when you are not desperate. Because the devil knows you will not fall for it because you are not desperate. But the devil comes when you are desperate. That's the time the devil comes as an angel. And guess what? They went to South Africa. South Africa refused to sell weapons to them. But according to Scott Perry, the United States troops, the USCIAID or whatsoever, were funding Boko Haram. Then all of a sudden, the US just woke up. Boom! Washington DC decided that Nigerian Christians are killing, Christians are dying. We need to go fight and free them. Let's continue.
Identify the people dropping the weapons as Americans. That's just what I want to ask. Did the villagers also tell you that, they were Americans, they spoke English? I just want to identify that, sir. Did the villagers also identify them as Americans?
I just told you. Now, Rufa, if you are not going to listen to me, I will stop talking so you can continue doing the talking. I have said so. I said the villagers knew these were white people. And I said, we who were on that committee made the mistake of thinking they were French. But now it is an American congressman who's telling us that it was the Americans who did this. And you're asking me whether the villagers told us they were American. The villagers who don't know French from Americans, from British, they just knew that these were white people.
Right.
And they not only did that, they also penetrated our armed forces, because behind the scene, our boys would tell us that there were times when they will have Boko Haram people in the sight of their guns, and they will now ask their headquarters for permission to open fire, only for their superior officers to tell them to pull back and not open fire. That shows the extent to which there was penetration and destabilization of our own security forces. Now, who will do this? Who?
Now, do you see how Nigerian politicians, government officials, the hierarchy or the higher rank of the Nigerian army play part in this? All soldiers who did not know that influential hands were in this, that could now with Boko Haram, may deal with Boko Haram. These are people that say Boko Haram will come close to their base and they want to fight, they want to open and fire to fight. But their chief, their commander will tell them, no, don't do it. Don't fight them. and they will not fight. They will lead these Boko Haram, will enter the base of the Nigerian army, and they leave the goal. Nigerian, and then you sit down, and then you running. Trump come and free Nigeria. We want for Trump to come. It's deeper than what you are not seeing. It's deeper because what you are not seeing is not on the surface. Let me repeat. What you are not seeing is not on the surface. So what you see on the surface is not about you. What you see on the surface, it is the propaganda that is being used.
Will destabilize our security forces. There were Nigerians also who were involved. And this is where I'm going to be careful. I'm not going to mention names.
So, you see that statement he made, that sometimes the army told them that when they pursued these people, those of you who have been watching my video, I've said it countless times in regards to Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traore made this same statement, that the reason why they overthrew the government is that they feel that the government is setting them up. They are on the field, their people are dying in the hand of these stateless people. Now, when they go forward and they are able to defeat these people, at the point where they have the chance to finish them off, then a call will come from sometime France to the government that they should leave the people. And they have to retreat. A call will just come to the government and the government to call them that they should retreat. The same statement this man right here is making regard to Nigeria. So it is the same situation we are facing on the continent of Africa.
And that is what exactly went on in Nigeria. So power hands sat somewhere while their taxpayer money was funding Boko Haram, and they were telling Nigerian key officials, key government officials, and military officials who have been bought, don't fight Boko Haram, don't never try it. While their taxpayer money funding Boko Haram. Do you see? Now you are running. You are running. US come and save us. Daniel Trump come and save us. Muslims killing Christian. Muslim killing Christian, come and kill us. Muslim killing Christian. You have to say Muslims are not Africans. And if they never care for Africans, they will never care for Christian. If they care for Christian, when they were taking you in slavery, wasn't that preaching the Bible at that time? When they put you in a dungeon in Ghana, when they put you in a dungeon in Nigeria, when they put you in a dungeon in Senegal, when they put you in a dungeon in Tanzania, when they put you in a dungeon in Kenya, when they put you in a dungeon in Sierra Leone, and to name the rest, they have those white people who are Christian on top of the building, worshiping God. Praying to their God. I don't want to say worshiping God, because their God and my God are not the same. They serve a different God, and I serve a different God. But their God were Christian. They were over the building when they were preaching, hallelujah, amen, oh, thank you, Jesus, oh, hallelujah, thank you, blah, blah, blah. And they were praying and speaking in tongues, but you were indulgent. And after they pray and speak in tongues, they come and rape your women, your children, your wife. They rape them, and they put them on ship, and they ship them to America, and they came and made them. They put them on a plantation and made them a sex slave. They were Christian at that time. They didn't think about humanity. They didn't think about humanity. They didn't think that the God they serve, the Christian God they serve, that same Christian God love you. They didn't think that the Christian God they serve, the Christian God that made them, that put breath in them, was that same Christian God that created you. They never thought of that. But today, they want to come save Christian. Christians are dying. Since when have any European nation cared about black Christians? I have never seen it in history. There is no history that you can point to say European Christian, white Christian ever care about black Christian. There is no history on that. Oh yeah, DRC Congo is not a Christian nation, right? In fact, DRC Congo, I think in Africa, is where you have the Catholic headquarters. I believe so. That's where it is. So DRC Congo is not a Christian nation. Out of the setting, and then you want to take that narrative that Muslims are killing Christians in Nigeria. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this that I am supporting Boko Haram. I'm not saying this for you to think that I am supporting the church or the killing of Christians. And I don't believe that I don't believe that narrative or that Christian. No, both whether Muslims or Christians, they are dying, because we have seen videos upon videos where Boko Haram enter villages. Whether you are Christian, whether you are Muslim, they kidnap you and they told them, bring back our girls. Those girls, almost all of them, they were Muslims. So let us be careful with the narrative. We are going to expose the West today in most of their videos. We are not bringing up, we will bring their own videos and there we play it so that y'all can see and y'all be a judge. When you start calling the US to come and fight for you, they are not coming for that. They're not coming for that. They create the chaos and move in and capitalize on the chaos to accomplish their aim. Think about Libya, man. Why are we Africans, we got to forget? Why can't you think about Libya? Think about the Middle East. Think about the Middle East. A society, a culture have been destroyed. And centuries of years will come and pass and go. That society will never be built again. It would take decades. I mean, I don't even know. It would take generations upon generations to come before that society be built, before that culture be built. Even Libya is going to take generations to build Libya again, to take Libya to where Gaddafi had it. Because it was the same United States democracy that destroyed. It was the same US NATO that destroyed in the name of going to save Libyan, because Gaddafi was killing Libya. Gaddafi was a dictator. And you, Nigeria, most of you know this story. And you know that the US and NATO, now, at first, maybe you believe that they went there to free Libya, to give Libya better life, better democracy. But later on, you got to know it was lie, and you know it. And then today, you still sit down and believe that these same people that went and destroyed Libya in the name of democracy, in the name of giving peace and whatsoever. Today, the Libya are in a disaster, that demise, that calamity. And then you want to sit and believe that these people are coming again? So do you want us to come after 2-3 years when Nigeria have been destroyed and gone, and then we come back again and sit down on social media and then start comparing Nigeria and Libya instead of fighting right now to stop that? And then you want us to come back after 2 or 3 years to come and say, oh, they destroyed Libya, and then look at again now Nigeria, they have destroyed Nigeria. What African we can learn? Instead of us saying they have destroyed Nigeria, just like Libya, let us use Libya as an example in other nations that the US have gone. And those nations have not known peace, but destruction and death. Let us use that as an example to save Nigeria. Last week we said, no one will ever fight for you. If the US is trying to come to Nigeria to fight in Nigeria, they are not coming to fight for the life, the human's life. They are coming to fight for their own interest. It's the oil, the diamond, the gold. That's what they are coming for. And don't believe me, they themselves going to say it. Let's continue. I'm not going to talk until the video finishes, but now you get a drift.
The same strategy is being used on the continent of Africa. What this man said in regards to selling of the weapon, and they refuse to sell the weapons to them, how the army, sometimes when they get close to defeating these people, they will call them back. This same statement have been made by the president of Burkina Faso countless times. in his speech, when he first took office, he was saying these things, and I was interpreting some of them here. Those of you who watch my video countless time, I've been mentioning it in some of my videos. When I'm live session, I spoke about it on TikTok, everywhere. And the same thing is happening in Nigeria right here. And the man concluded by saying that even some of the politicians are involved. Burkina Faso president also said it, that their people are conniving together with the international committee and they are setting them up, which is the reason why they have to take power to run the thing themselves, because they can't keep dying for the greed of some people who are in power. This is a huge problem on the continent. So if you are calling the international community that come and help us, it makes us look stupid when we know the source of the problem and we are referring to the source of the problem to solve the problem. These are some of the reasons why Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso have to come together and say, look, let's settle our own problem. Because the politicians, African Union, the AU chair right now is calling the international community to go and help what? Mali. He's trying to create, that vibe that Mali is under attack. They should go and help Mali. He knows the source of the problem. All of them, they know the source of the problem. But they always refer to the source of the problem to solve the problem. Hypocrisy all over the continent of Africa. African problem must be solved by Africans. The moment you detect where the problem is coming from, then you come together and solve it. You don't refer to the source of the problem to solve the problem. And on the continent, instead of us coming together and dealing with these people, you have some people calling that we should negotiate with them. Mali, under the former government, was negotiating with these people. When Assimi Goïta came, he said, we are not going to negotiate with these people. We are clearing them up. But Burkina Faso said, it's just two options. Surrender and you are free, or you run away. Other than that, we bury you. Period. We hear some people in Nigeria, they are pushing that this issue should be handled amicably with the stateless people. The army should not go in. No. They should negotiate with them. People who are taking the life of our civilians, we should negotiate with them. Then how will justice be served for those who die in the hands of these people? You understand the reason why Sheikh Gumi is always pushing the agenda for negotiation. Sheikh Gumi was a captain in the army of Nigeria. Guess what? This is what he's proposing.
We don't want to push them into that terror beyond what they are doing now, because yes, it can get worse. They have shown us their willingness to negotiate. So people that are ready to negotiate, why are you rushing to just declare them bandits so that you can use whatever weapons you want?
So if somebody who was in the military is talking like this, what is it telling you? It tells you that there is a complete, I don't even know how to put it. How can you tell us that people who are taking the life of our civilians, we should negotiate with them? And what do we want to declare them bandit and do whatever we want to do when the people are ready to negotiate? But is something wrong? Is there a problem with this man? What is the meaning of this? And Nigerians are giving microphone to these people to speak into. So if somebody who was in the military is talking, Sheikh Gumi is always pushing the agenda for negotiation. Sheikh Gumi was a captain in the army of Nigeria. Guess what? This is what he's proposing.
We don't want to push them into that terror beyond what they are doing now, because yes, it can get worse.
But everyone
they
has
have
a
shown
different
us
story.
their willingness to negotiate. So people that are ready to negotiate, why are you rushing to just declare them bandits so that you can use whatever weapons you want?
So if somebody who was in the military is talking like this, what is it telling you? It tells you that there is a complete, I don't even know how to put it. How can you tell us that people who are taking the life of our civilians, we should negotiate with them? And what do we want to...
All right, folks, once again, how you guys doing? This is Frank. I am your host. This is the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series of WCC. Sometimes we present, how to call it, on Sunday. Sometimes we present on Saturday. Like we said previously, right? This show actually is on Saturday now, and then the Saturday show have been transferred to the Sunday show. But the reason why sometimes you see me out here on Sunday is because Kimba and Natasha are not back. So I'm using that, right, at my own benefit. So let's say if Saturday, I never had a time to present, I can use that, to present on Sunday. But until Natasha and Kimba can come back, I'm going to be, using that time to mine, to my own benefit. Where sometimes if I don't present on Sunday, let's say on Saturday, I will present on Sunday. Once again, this is Frank. I am your host. Today's shows, it says part 2 of what we spoke of last week, right? Part 2. It is not about the U.S. saving Christians' life in Nigeria. It is about China. Now, you might say, friend, what will or what is or why should you say it is not about Nigerians' life, or it is not about Christians, in quote, Christians' life in Nigeria, but it is because of China that the U.S. want to come? Maybe you might say, what interest does the U.S. have in China that the U.S. all of a sudden, boom, they want to come to Nigeria? You might say, in fact, what is China doing in Nigeria that the U.S. want to come there? You'll be damn right to ask that question. Absolutely, you'll be right. You'll be right. What is about China in Nigeria that the U.S. is coming? You'll be right to ask that question, right? But again, what I can tell you here is, based on the historical perspective or analysis of the United States, based on this historical happening of NATO, the historical influence of the West, it is not about Christians' life being lost in Nigeria. No. That is just the narrative that is being used for you to accept. Let me say this. Before then, time have evolved. Before them, the United States, if they don't like your government, or if they feel that your government is not in protecting their foreign selfish interests, what they do before then, back then, what they do, they themselves will come in with their CIA and slaughter your leader. Before then. Sometimes, in fact, what they do before then, if your leader did not support their selfish foreign policy interests, they will sit in Washington, D.C. and write a letter. What is it? What an insult! And write a letter. And then they will use a CIA to bring that letter to your leader, to your government, asking your government to resign, to leave power. And a letter, not democracy, not waiting, right? Not waiting for the people to vote. And then if the people don't like you, the people remove you. No, the United States was not doing that. They will sit in Washington, D.C. and write a letter and then give it to a CIA, and then the CIA take it to that leader and say, hey, listen, the United States government, the United States Congress say, I should present you this gift of a letter. Imagine a president of an entire country reading this letter, and then it says, a letter from the United States government. Folks, it's funny, right? But listen to this. A letter from the United States government is asking you to resign, not even please, to resign, leave office in 48 hours. Or else, if you refuse to leave office, the letter is not stating that you are killing your people, you are corrupt, you are going against human rights, violation. You are not producing means of living for the people? No. But it's saying in there, because you have disobeyed the United States foreign policy, you do not, how do you call it? You are not in the interest of the U.S. In fact, you took your national interest over the United States interest. So the United States government is asking you to resign and leave power, or else in 48 hours, you'll be removed. And some leader did not do it. For example, DRC Congo. Now, I'm laughing, right? But you see the laughing I'm doing, I'm not doing it because you think it's funny. No. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because, we Africans, I don't know what is wrong with us. Sometimes we are stupid and dumb. That's why I'm laughing. I'm not laughing because the U.S. sent letter. That's how they survive. I'm laughing because we Africans, mostly we behave stupid and dumb, especially to the leaders in authority. They behave stupid and dumb. That's why I'm laughing. That is why I'm laughing. They did that to DRC Congo. And what did they do? They trained today, the same man, how do you call him? What is his name? Kigami. They trained Kigami. Today, the same man. Museveni, Uganda, they trained him. They CIA trained him, and they went to DRC Congo. They remove a government for the people. They remove him. After they sent a letter to him, the U.S. government wrote a letter to resign. Oh God, the U.S. were doing that. That was the trick they played, right? And then they would come in. If they don't write letter, they come in with their CIA. They kill your leader. Similar thing like that happened in Liberia. They killed Turbo. Foreign hand went and killed Turbo. Foreign hand went and killed E.J. Raw. The first African, in fact, the first African head of state to be assassinated, 1871. Later, the rest of the other African nations, there was not even fighting about independence. Okay, there was still colonial nation. 1870, in fact, no, Africa was not even divided because Africa got divided 1884 in the Berlin Conference. 1884, yeah, 1884, the Berlin Conference. That was the time they divided up. So, in fact, look at, in fact, oh my God, you see history? The first African head of state to be killed by outside influence, by outside entity, was a Liberian president, E.J. Raw. And E.J. Raw was not taken to Liberia by the American Liberian or by the ACS or by the United States government. That's one thing Liberians need to know in the first place when you learn your history. Okay? Those of you Liberians that are listening, that are here or that was listening to the recording, E.J. Raw did not migrate to Africa or to Liberia because of the ACS. The ACS did not take E.J. Raw. The people the ACS took, those people were trained specifically. And that's why history lied to you people that Liberia was funded as a place to carry free slaves. The people the ACS took to Liberia, they were not free slaves. They were rebellion slaves. Read your history well. You see it. It's in Washington, D.C. They know it. They were rebellion slaves. And those people were trained. And those people were the people that held the nation as a settlers colony for the U.S. They maintained the colony for the U.S. That's what they were sent for. Before they left, they were trained not to even integrate with the people there. Read your history well. Okay? So E.J. Raw went to Liberia by himself. He was never taken by the ACS. He was never taken by the American government. He went there by himself. So because he was not trained that the rebellious slaves that were taken by the ACS, when E.J. Raw went, he still had an opportunity, right? Because they still saw him as Americo-Liberian. Okay? But we're not getting into that, all right? But fast forward, he became a head of state. 1871, they killed him because of what he wanted to do. He was now going by the order of the Americo-Liberian, the order of the ACS, the people that held the country captivity for 140 years. They killed him. He was the first African head of state to be slaughtered. Okay? And then before, that was 1871. Okay? And then before coming to the 1980, all right? Now, he was the first head of state to be killed. And then before now coming to the 1960, when other African leaders now will start getting independent now. Will start fighting for independence. And then the same people again come. They start slaughtering African leaders. Now you know the story like Lumumba, Patrice Lumumba. You know the story like Thomas Sankara. You know the story like Steve Biko. You know the list can go on, right? But that was the first head of state that was killed. And ask yourself, all these head of state that were killed, most of them were killed directly or indirectly by the CIA. Now later on, as society began to evolve, the United States stopped writing letters to African leaders to resign. They stopped that. Now, they stopped that not because they feared that what they were doing was wrong. It's just like when they abolished slavery in Great Britain, 1804. They did not abolish slavery because they feared that what they was doing was wrong. They did not abolish slavery because they feared that what they were doing was wrong or they felt guilty. No. They abolished slavery in 1807 in Great Britain or in England or on that part of the world because they have gotten the wealth they wanted. Now, they discover another means of wealth, which was the resources. Okay? Because they couldn't be dealing with slavery there and then at the same time go on the African continent. It's like you're fighting two battles. So they needed to get rid of one and then focus on the other side. So when they did that, for example, like St. Vincent, Trinidad and Tobago, the Great Britain, right? They recruited people from there. So what you saw America did in America in 1822, they took slaves from here and carried them to Africa. They saw it from the French. They saw it from Great Britain. So Trinidad and Tobago, what they did at that time, 1807, they now took some of their slaves from Trinidad, Tobago, Dominican Republic, all that side, right? St. Vincent. They took some of the slaves and they took them to Africa. Because at that time, these people now could speak English. All right? They could speak English because we're talking about years upon years. Some of them, they couldn't speak their local languages. They came away from Africa. Because when they took them for Africa, we're talking about the 1600, the 1619 or whatsoever, when they kidnapped them, right? So now we're talking about from the 16, 17, or 18. We're talking about the 1800 now. You know how many years there that have gone? Years that have gone. They couldn't speak their local languages, most of them now, right? So what they did, even if some of them could still speak their local languages, because like Haiti, they still speak, Creole and those things, right? Okay. But what we're trying to say here is they were speaking English at that time now. So the British government couldn't go to Africa and then and at that time the people there wasn't speaking English. They were speaking their local languages. All right, because Africa was not divided yet at that time. Africa was divided 1884, Berlin Conference. So during that time, 1807, Africa was still a unified continent. All right, Africa was a unified continent. Okay, so St. Vincent, Trinidad, Tobago, Dominican Republic, all those places, right, that was on the British. They took some of their slaves to maintain a colony. Okay, so the United States saw that. They took some of their slaves to maintain the colony that they could communicate with, straight in English, in a Queen language. So these people were there maintaining the colony. They also did that in other places. All right. So the United States, so in Portugal, all of them, they did it. Like when you see Cape Verde, that they speak Portuguese and things and those things, they did some of those things. They took some people took them on our side too, who could speak the Portuguese already, that they communicate with them at that time. And then those people that they took there start teaching them the Portuguese too. That's what happened in Liberia too. These American Liberians, they took from there the rebellion slave. They don't want to talk English. We're not speaking English. We're speaking our Loma, our Gio, our Kisi, Mende, whatsoever you think about. In Liberia there, Manon, Kran, we're speaking these things. All right? We're speaking these things. We're not speaking English. So when these people went there, they taught English because the American government have to use them. So while they were there, that's how it went on. But up to now, it have not been voted that English is our official language. But it was used because it is used widely, so we decided to use it. That's why when Tobo came in, Tobo decided to make one of the easier language to learn in Liberia called Pere. Tobo decided to make Pere as an official language. They say, you American Liberian, you rebellion slave, I think you're trying to miss the map. They kill him too. But anyway, let's continue here. We're speaking history here now, right? So we're just telling you how time have evolved that where these Western nations, right, that regularly just used to go on the African and just kill any African leaders. So because time have evolved, right, and things are changing and people are waking up, they decided to change it, right? So I was saying that in 1804, when they abolished slavery, they didn't do it because they felt guilty. They didn't do it because they felt for African people. No, they did it because they found another means of exploitation. And that was going down to the African continent, to own the African continent, divide the African continent, and steal their resources, right? That's how they abolished slavery. Not because they fell for Liberian or African, not because they said, you know what, we are tired of raping Africans, women, we are tired of feeding our babies to alligator, we are tired of making them, out of barbecue, we are tired, giving it like bar break and all of those things, we are tired of lynching them, we are tired, suffering them on a cotton plantation, on a field plantation, we are tired, not because of that. They found another alternative of making money at that time, the resources. That's how they try to abolish it. Now, that did not stop in the U.S. The U.S. continued from 1804 after British abolished it. I mean, from 1807 after British abolished it. The U.S. still continued until 1865. And then even after 1865, 1868, Jim Crow law and all of those things, start coming in, white only, black only, and all of those things, right? They took those things, right? So I'm just giving history as how things changed, not because, they see it as bad. It changed, but right, the exploitation still go. It's just the method of performance that changed. The method of performing, the method of force change, right? But the exploitation did not change. The ideology did not change. But it's just the method of application of force that changed, right? So the way in which the U.S. used to kill African leaders that regularly just go to write you lecture or they come with the CIA and kill you, that changed when things began to evolve. So what they then do was, okay, we will use their own people to go against them. Because now the people are waking up. If we continue to just go in and kill their leader, right? Because let's say they love their leader. Actually, they love their leader. And then we just go in, kill them. They will come against us. They will see us as the bad one. So what we then can do here is we have to now use propaganda. We have to now get to their people, right? Convince their people. Once their people are convinced, their people will be the one to do the job. That's how, when you see people are Patrick Lumumba then were killed, some of their people then were involved. That's why when you see Thomas Sankara was killed, some of their people then were involved. Like the story with Judah, right? I know Judah or Judah Iscariot with Jesus, right? So when you even look at, anyway, we're not going to Bible, right? But when you look at that Judah Iscariot story, you will know exactly that black people again. Because black people, look at the history. Black people are the people that have always been used to go against their own people. Look at the history. Where in history you see other people being used to go against their own people, when it is something that would benefit their own people. You understand that? So when even though we know, when you read the Bible, when you read Revelation chapter 1 verse 14, right, you will see the description of Jesus. And then when you read Daniel 7 verse 9, you will see the description of Jesus' Father, which is the one they call the Almighty God. He is described in there. And the description there, that black, the description of the Almighty God, the man you can say Jesus' Father, right? The description of him is in Daniel, and describing as black. And then Revelation, the last chapter of the book, right? Again, it describes Jesus black. And then Daniel, it describes Jesus' Father, which is the Almighty God, black. You see, so when you look at history, black people are the people who have been used. Even it go biblically, it go in the Bible, biblical is biblical. So when you see Judah Iscariot, he was used. That was a black man that was used to go against another black man. But the Roman, why am I always using black people? But anyway, let's continue. And this platform, we are all over, okay? We can quote Bible to you, but we are not here to that. But we're just opening your mind for you to see how even biblically, black people have always been used stupidly. But the same people, Esau, again, I don't want to go to the Bible, but you see what I'm getting at, right? So as that involved, the United States began to change something and say, no, we cannot go indirectly. We have to use the people themselves, and then the people will go against their own leader and kill them. We saw that with Gaddafi of our time. Are you not saying? We saw that with Gaddafi of our time. US, NATO, they use the same Libyan. They use the same Libyan. And apart from that, they use the same AU, the same African head of state. They use it again. They kept mute. They did not go. They used them. It's biblical. So even into the Bible, black people have been used always to kill their leaders, to kill their Messiah. Are you getting it? So now they are using Nigerian by saying Christians are dying. You see the narrative? But you saw the first video we watched? So are you saying? So instead of them coming in straight, they will use your people. And then your people have to, it's just like even in the US, before they go for war, right? They know what they're going for there. The American people might not agree for their children to go. So what they do, they convince the American populate, because they have to agree before their children go. If I don't agree, my child is not going to go. So I have to make my child, oh, you are dying for the country. You are dying. This is what you took oath for. You are dying for us. Right? So they have to use, it's just one thing the US need to use. Once you say these people hate American, hey, that line, that phrase, that's the hook the US always use. And do you know why the US always use that hook? Because Americans are patriot. When it comes to their nation, they are patriot. They are nationalist. Which nothing wrong with that, by the way, in a way. Nothing wrong with that. All right? But I'm saying this to let you know the US understand their population. The US, the government, now when I say the US, I mean the government, the hierarchy. They understand how they can get to their people. They understand because they know their people are loyal. That look, you can take anything from an American man. You can take anything from them. But when it comes to the USA, you will be a dead man walking if you think you will take that from them. Okay? So the hierarchy, they know it. So when they want for the citizens to agree for their children to go for war, they use that. Oh, he hate American. He's coming for they did it to Iraq. But did I say I went to Iraq and came and said, oh no, there was no nuclear weapon. But they use that. Oh, he coming to destroy America. He got a nuclear weapon. He hate American. He hate this. He hate this. And because they know that the American, they love their nation. They are patriot. They are nationalist. They use that. And that's how they have been operating. And once their citizens agree, their citizens, in fact, they will say, you're going to fight. You're protecting our life. You're protecting the nation. You're protecting. And then now they go and sit down and drink wine and glass. Their children are not there. They say, yeah, yeah, we got it. We will go there. You see? And that's the same thing they are doing with Nigeria. Oh, Muslims are killing Christians. And then now, if you're not careful, another war. But let's continue here, right? And you understand what we're going on. Now, Nigerian, we are not saying don't call for your help. Like we said, we are not supporting Boko Haram. But listen, freedom does not come for those who need a freedom and are not fighting for it. Freedom does not come to those who need the freedom and are not fighting for it. Who coming down to die for your freedom? Who? Let's continue here. Let's see this video. Now, you see this video here. There is one reason the United States want to go to Nigeria. It is not about you so-called African, you so-called Christian believe in this religious ideology. Your mindset that you want to go to heaven and you are so delusional. You die. You ain't go to no damn heaven. Heaven is on earth and hell is on earth. Your life on earth determines heaven, and your life on earth determines hell. You die. There is nothing. After you die, there is nothing you understand. There is nothing. You go. Heaven is on earth, and hell is on earth. Your life on earth determines your heaven. Your life on earth determines your hell. Why will the Almighty Creator, if there is somewhere that you will go and live and enjoy whatsoever you've been saying, preaching, why will the Almighty Creator create this earth and everything good and put it in there for you to come and live and enjoy it? Why he couldn't leave it in the heaven so that when you die, you go and enjoy it? Why? Your life on earth determines your heaven, and your life on earth determines your hell. Hell is a condition, and heaven is a condition. Let me repeat. Hell is a condition. Heaven is a condition. Your life on earth determines your heaven, and your life on earth determines your hell. So you can go and sit there and fast for I don't know how many days. Go and lay down in the church for whole 7 days, 7 nights, all week. Lay down there. He said you praying to go to heaven. You die. Nothing you remember. When you die, you become an ancestor. That's it. When you die, you become an ancestor. You become forefather. When you die, you become forefather. That's it. When you die, you become forefather. Listen, folks. Have you gone to the graveyard? No, you know what? Let the topic small. All right. Have you gone to a graveyard? Right? And then you see on a graveyard, babies are 1 year old in our graveyard. 1 year old baby, they're dead. They are dead. They die. That means when they were on earth here, they did not even understand whether they were on earth. They did not, because their brain was not mature. They didn't know where they were. Why did they understand? So that means after they came 1 year till they died, they gone back to heaven. They have no idea of heaven and hell when they were born here. They have no idea of heaven. They have no idea of hell. Because they did not understand at that time. They couldn't speak. They couldn't nothing. And then they die. So they're going to heaven. Eh? You better start thinking. Heaven, your life determines your heaven here. And your life determines hell here. Let's play this video. Play this video and see the reason why these people want to go to Nigeria. They come to tell you. We have a lot of videos. We will play it. They will tell you why.
Africa is the future. I have said it time and time again. We have to stop looking at Africa as a security concern alone. And we have to recognize that between their minerals and between the entrepreneurial spirit, Nigerian lawyers are as good or better than American lawyers or British lawyers. I mean, there is an incredible infrastructure of intelligence in Nigeria that we don't know anything about.
We all know that America is failing to acknowledge its true predatory and bloody relationship with Africa. And I'm not talking about historically, I'm talking about today. In my opinion, the perceived relationship that the West has with Africa is a lot of smoke and mirrors. And that is done by design. But in my opinion, there's also a dark truth from the African perspective. You see, Africa also misrepresents its relationship with the West. And in this video, we're going to break down why both sides are completely disingenuous about how they relate to each other. This is a truth that can be highlighted in Sun Tzu's book, The Art of War. Sun Tzu teaches that if you know yourself and know the enemy, you will not be defeated. But if you know the enemy, but do not know yourself, your chances of success are extremely reduced. If you know neither yourself nor your enemy, you are certain to fail. So if you're out there and you want to understand how Africa can improve by recognizing the reality in which it truly lives in, then this video is for you. If you don't know me, my name is TJ.
Do you have a car? And do you have a clean driving record? Did you know you could pay as low as...
I'm Nigerian and British mixed. And on this channel, we talk about African geopolitics. So this week, Bob Amsterdam had a conversation with Tucker Carlson. I've never come across Bob before, but I think conversations like this matter because we're moving away from the old network television model into the new era of independent online media. Tucker Carlson is a major voice in that transition, reaching millions of viewers. So when someone comes on his platform and discusses Africa, considering Tucker's influence, it shows that questions about American and the Western foreign policy toward Africa is getting some genuine and real attention, which is why it's important for us to insert ourselves there, understand what's being said, and correct anything that is misrepresented. Beyond Africa, it seems, people everywhere do want to stay informed. Tucker Carlson would not feature topics like this if there was no audience for them. So let's take a listen to exactly what was said about Africa in his interview.
The Nigerian government is populated by Christians and Muslims. Absolutely, let's be clear, President Tinubu's wife is a Christian pastor. This is not targeted at Christians. There are probably an equal or more number of Muslim deaths. I am grateful to.
Now, folks, I beg you, please pay attention. This guy said, this is not about Christian. Now, some of you, when the black men speak, you don't believe it. And that's what we bring, because we spoke about this last week, right? And other people have spoken about it. Maybe you did not still believe us. And that's why we're having a part 2. I didn't say it. And he didn't say it either, the person who had the video, right? But this white guy is the one that is speaking. You heard him. This is not about Christian. This is not about Muslim killing Christian. There's an alternative motive, and he's going to say it. So we're doing this because we want for African people to see, because we African, we are so dumb and stupid. Some of us, we got to forget.
Take a listen to exactly what was said about Africa in his interview.
The Nigerian government is populated by Christians and Muslims. Absolutely, let's be clear, President Tinubu's wife is a Christian pastor. This is not targeted at Christians. There are probably an equal or more number of Muslim deaths. I am grateful to President Trump for identifying these attacks on Christians. Believe it or not, you can blame some of this on the French, who had this.
I know nothing about it, but I believe you anyway.
They had a massive force in the Sahel. They armed the Tuaregs, which are a notorious.
So you heard it. He says some of this you can believe. Some of this. What that means, some, right? It means not just une France. Listen, this is English. It also means not just une France. Some of this, you can also blame it on France, because France have masses of terrorists, or how they call it, assistant. France is supporting the terrorists in the region. Some of this, you can also blame it on the French. While some of this, you can also blame it on the U.S., United States taxpayer money, to the USAID, funding Boko Haram. Now you understand this. Some of this, right? So it's not just France. Some of this. While also Scott Barrett said the United States taxpayer money through CIA and US, how they call it, AID, also funding Boko Haram, but equally so, the French are also involved. It's English. Did you see that? Nigerian. Did you see that? You are going to the people who caused the problem for solution. When the problem was caused because of the resources, we create the chaos and then move in a capitalize on the chaos and accomplish our aim. Hold on. Let me bring that video in the first place. We'll come back to this video. Hold on. We will come to this video. Hold on. We're going to come to that video. We create the chaos. Listen to this, folks. We create the chaos and capitalize on the chaos, and then come in and capitalize on the chaos and then do our deed.
Six of the 10 fastest growing economies are in sub-Saharan Africa. country's rich in mineral wealth. Coltan for our computers, cobalt for our batteries, phosphates for our agriculture, nuclear ore for our power. These are the things, gentlemen, that the wars of the next 20, 30 years will be fought over. A huge deposit of cobalt was...
Did you listen to that? Did you listen to that? In the next 30 years, these are the things we're going to be fighting over for. It's about Christian. It's about going to save Christian's life. Go and DRC, come and save the Christian life first. Let's continue, man.
Discovered in Mali. 20, 30 years will be fought over. A huge deposit of cobalt was discovered in Mali just over 2 years ago. Back then, we approached the Malian government about mining rights. They told us that those rights were going to the Chinese.
Now, Nigeria, this is what it's about. It's not about Christian like the video we just showed, right? We're going to go back to that video. It's not about Christian. It's about China in Nigeria. Last week, we told you, Tinubu just signed about $24 billion contract of oil and other mineral resources with China. And let me say this. The reason why they went to China, they came to the U.S., but the U.S. did not agree. Because the U.S. is not about investment in your country. And not just the U.S., folks. These colonial nations, that's how their empire are built. Their empires were built on exploitation. Their empire were built not to empower you, the person they are exploiting. No, their empire were built on exploiting, extracting other people's resources, exploiting it and taking it to their nation, to their empire, to build their empire. Not to come to improve your empire or build your empire. No, not to give you their technology. No. So the U.S. did not agree. So Tinubu had no option. As we discussed last week, 2027 is election. You think Tinubu want to leave power? You think or Tinubu party want to lose power to another political party or to Peter Obi? In the first place, when the Nigerians know that Tinubu came there through the ranking of the election, and the Nigerians are saying that Tinubu, he may not even have, he may not even go there. You see it? So a puppet leader of the U.S. is having third term. So what then happened? Said his master could not grant his wish. He went to China. And then his master said, okay, we are coming for you. So this is about China and not just in this video. You're going to see the next video we're going to play. The video I will show you, we're going to go back to that video and you're going to see how this man is going to tell you it's not about, he already told you the first thing is not about Christians, right? Now, from there, he's going to tell you why Nigeria want to go there. I mean, why the U.S. want to go there. Is to establish, first of all, base. Because imagine the U.S. base was in Niger. They took them out in our region. They kicked them out. The French, they kicked them out. The Canadian, they were there. They kicked them. The German, there, they kicked them. Imagine you have the U.S. in our region, the Canadian in our region, the French in our region, the German in our region, but they couldn't defeat the terrorists. So the U.S. won. The French, 2, military 2. The Canadian, military 3. The British, military 4. The German, military 5. 5. They couldn't defeat Boko Haram. So now you see why they told Nigerian, or they told other people not to sell ammunition to Nigeria. They told other people not to sell ammunition to the Sahel nation. And at the same time, they were funding the terrorists, the Boko Haram, to destabilize the region. Folks, war is profit. And that's what it means about to explain in this video.
Cobalt was discovered in Mali just over 2 years ago. Back then, we approached the Malian government about mining rights. They told us that those rights were going to the Chinese. So we set about to create the conditions to make sure that wouldn't.
Now, after they told them the right have gone to the Chinese, and then their next option was, okay, we're going to create conditions and capitalize on those conditions and move in to accomplish our aim. Now, in Nigeria, what is that condition? Muslims are killing Christians. In Libya, what was that condition? Gaddafi was a dictator. In Libya, what was that condition? The people need democracy.
Manhattan. Just last week, one of our Australian subsidiaries, thank you, Lackland, secured those rights. Our pilot project in Mali hit a few bumps, but I'm delighted to report that it worked. And if it can work there, there's no reason it can't work in other mineral-rich countries across Africa.
So you heard it. If it can work here, there is no other way or reason that it will not work all across Africa. The propaganda can work, and the people will buy into it.
We create the chaos, and then we move in and capitalize on that chaos. We're looking at the long term here, gentlemen. Rates of return that'll make Iraq and Afghanistan look like chicken feed.
So now we're going to go back to the other video. So now you see it. The same way they make Afghanistan look like a chicken feet. Folks, you think these people care about your life? They don't care about your life, whether you are dying. They don't care. Look at how these people speak. We make Afghanistan look like a chicken feet. So we will make Africa look like a chicken feet. Now let's go to the video. African, we will learn the hard way. We will learn the hard way. I borrowed word from very dark man. You will learn the hard way. Where's the video? Come on, where's the video here? Where are you? Don't tell me I lost it though. Okay, let's go to the video here. Now, let's continue here.
Notoriously aggressive tribal group. That arming has led to mass killings of Christians. The fact that when Libya blew apart, a massive amount of arms went down to Boko Haram can't be denied by anyone. Nigeria wants to consult with the United States. Nigeria wants assistance in protecting Christians and Muslims, protecting their populations. Nigeria feels it has not had a fair shake from Washington. And I'm not, I don't work for Nigeria. I'm not going to go on and on. The foreign minister is a close friend who I respect deeply. But I can tell you from my work, I was privileged to represent one of the Nigerian states years ago, Akwa Ibom. We won a case actually for them.
Gym hurts. Just do Tai Chi. It heals.
Man, the Nigerians would welcome American assistance with open arms. So this is unlike Ukraine, which is destroying its church, or Armenia, which is destroying its church. Here you have a government that wants to protect its populace, doesn't have the resources. Nobody's going to deny Nigeria's been racked by corruption all the years I've known it. But they want a new deal, a new relationship with Washington. And
so you heard it. They want a new deal, a new relationship, not a colonial relationship, not a one street relationship, not a paternalistic relationship. But Washington D.C. is so adamant and don't want to listen because Washington D.C. believe in exploitation to build her empire. That's how they were built. Because Washington D.C. does not believe in competition. She lied and said democracy is about competition. She lied and said she believed in competition. But when you bring a competitive ideas, Washington D.C. does not like it. When you come in and say, you know what, we have the resources, then bring your technology so that we can train our people, so we can have factory, so that we can be able to build our own tool, or we can build our nuclear weapon, whatsoever you think about, so we can build it. Washington D.C. said no. Because Washington D.C. believe in a colonial attitude, a colonial policy. So you see, so then what Tinubu did, what Nigeria did too. They go to China. Just how everyone are running to China, Tinubu decided that, you know what, no. Even though I am a colonial puppet, even though I am a Washington D.C. puppet, but listen, this is about my people now. How long will I sit and watch my people suffer and die and lavish in poverty? Folks, hell is on earth. Nobody should lie to you and say when you die, you will go to heaven. No way. Listen to this. When a wicked man dies and a wicked man is buried, what do the wicked man people relatives say? He has gone to heaven. He's resting in heaven. When a good man dies, what do the good man people say? He has gone in heaven. He's resting in heaven. What am I saying here? If you think all people are wicked, their family don't see them as being wicked. If you think all people that you see as wicked, their people don't see them as wicked. Let me say this so you can understand. We believe Bill Gates is wicked, right? We believe Bill Gates is wicked, right? Bill Gates people and the people that support Bill Gates and the system that support Bill Gates do not believe Bill Gates is wicked. The day Bill Gates died, the people that believe in Bill Gates and the system that believe in Bill Gates, we say Bill Gates have gone to heaven, he's resting in heaven. Folks, heaven is on earth, hell is on earth. These are conditions that have been created to suppress nations that are rich in resources so that they will not be able to empower themselves to take care of themselves. It's conditions. These are conditions that have been created. And then they tell you only the poor can go to heaven. So right there in the first place, so are you telling me when you are rich, you're not going to go to heaven? And they say only the poor can inherit the heaven. So when you are rich, you will not inherit heaven. The meek should inherit. So that means they want you to continue to suffer and continue to complain, continue to lavish in poverty, so that you can hold on to that belief that I want to go to heaven. Folks, if you can live your life on planet Earth to enjoy yourself, you will die and go nowhere, no heaven. You will die and go with a lost memory.
And in part to assist them in protecting Christians. So when I read some of what I've been reading You know, I'm never going to say that Ted Cruz isn't a brilliant man. But I'm going to say I might have a little more time in Nigeria than he does. And I would welcome him to speak to the foreign minister or others, because one thing America doesn't need are more enemies. Africa is the future. I have said it time and time again. I'm privileged to be counsel to the
Now, let me say this. Not to the narrator, right? Well, Washington, D.C. knows Africa is the future. Congress knows that Africa is the future. But what happened here is, although they know Africa is the future, but they want to be in control of the future of Africa, not Africans being in control of the future. Maybe that is why most Nigerians don't get, or most Africans don't get, and then calling on Washington, D.C. Instead of supporting Abraham Traore, instead of supporting Tiani, how do you call it, Assimi Koita, instead of supporting these people, because they know, listen, folks, they know Africa is the future. That they know. Maybe it is you so-called Negro that don't know Africa is the future. It is you so-called Negro that don't know that Africa is the future. But the non-Negro know that Africa is the future. But equally so, do you think they will allow you, or they will sit and fold their hand for you to lead the future? Hell no. If you will lead the future, you have to fight for it. And that is what the AES are doing. And you have the so-called AU, stupid organization. Look, I have said this time without numbers. I am in support of the dissolvedness of AU. I want for AU to be dissolved. And then if we can build new AU, it should be built by a new generational, rising generational leader of Pan-African. Not the old folks, not the old heads. Because yesterday, we saw the same AU congratulating Pombia. Are you kidding me? Yesterday, we saw AU giving congratulations to Pombia, who is 92 years old, who rigged an election. 98% vote. How can you have a 98% vote in a country with opposition that also contested for the presidency? So that 2% vote went to the opposition. After this may have served over almost 50 years in power with nothing. And then you telling me opposition only get 2% vote? Yesterday, we saw AU congratulating Sam Selelu, Tanzania. The same thing, 98% vote with a nation that have oppositions running. You're getting 98% vote. And AU congratulated this lady. Is that democracy? That is not democracy.
Democratic Republic of the Congo. My firm has spent many years. We're still trying to defend the opposition leader of Tanzania, Tundu Lissu, who's been illegally jailed. 1,000 are dead protesting completely bogus, fraudulent elections. And to the credit of the United States.
And by the way, what he's saying here, right? A female leader, you see? Look, folks, it doesn't matter who leads you. I don't even want to believe that Western agenda. We need women empowerment. We need inclusiveness. I don't want to believe those things. what are women empowerment, what are men empowerment, what are inclusiveness. Look, folks, we should stop taking the narrative of the European or the Oscar war. What we should be discussing, what are women, what are men? We need leaders that will seek our interests. Not because we need women empowerment or we need equality, then we put women in power. I swear to God. Tanzania first ever elected or female president. And she came in power, she became a dictator, putting opposition leader in jail. And that's what he's talking about here. One of the opposition leaders was in jail during the time of the election. This lady put this man in jail. And that's why when she won the election again, 98% with a nation that have all opposition. That was not, people were not even in her favor. And then during the election, she cut all the internet facility, cut it off, everything. And then during the protest, everything cut it and then run away. But the AU gave this lady congratulations. AU!
At least in the Senate, they've spoken out. Foreign Relations Committee has spoken out. We need our administration, and we certainly need the EU to stop funding this grotesque government in Tanzania.
Are you getting it? These Western leaders fund these African leaders who are dictators, who don't care, who don't care for their people. You will never see the Western leader funding Abraham Traore, who are for his people, funding Tiani, who are for his people, funding Semi Gaita, who are for his people. You will never see Western leaders supporting them. In fact, it was not Washington, D.C. that stopped Abraham Traore from coming from that are so-called U.S. Africa Summit, that are so-called U.S. Africa Agro and a food product or whatsoever. You ever see them inviting those to the nation? Because those nations are for their people. That's the definition of democracy.
But we have to stop looking at Africa as a security concern alone. And we have to recognize that between their minerals and between the entrepreneurial spirit, Nigerian lawyers are as good or better than American lawyers or British lawyers. I mean, there is an incredible infrastructure of intelligence in Nigeria that we don't know anything about. All we try to do is sanction and condemn.
The first thing that stands out from this discussion is that the West already knows Africa is the future. They know the continent holds the minerals, the population, the growth, the energy potential, and the strategic position that will shape the next century. The problem is not that ignorance. The problem is that acknowledging publicly that Africa is the future with its foreign policy would force them to give up the predatory advantages they have built through decades of interference, extraction, and destabilization. This is why narratives about African instability continue to dominate Western conversations. In the interview, Bob points out that some of the violence in Nigeria can be tracked back to decisions made by France in the Sahel. This point is important, but it only scratches the surface, and it
Sorry, folks, because of time, I can't play the entire video. But at least you get the point and you see what went on, right? So that video is not a video from, and it's a recent video that have been made because of the issue going on in Nigeria, right? So Nigerian, be careful what you are calling for, all right? All right, let's continue. So now you may be asking, so friend, what can we do? Okay, we have solution for you. What we need to do, all right? We'll tell you. This place is not a place where we just come and just speak, give you opinion, and then talk, no solution. We bring solution. You like it, take it. You don't like it, don't take it. Our aim here is to bring it and give you it. We're not here to raise money, okay? We are not content creator or how they call it, platform. All right? Very good. But we have our WhatsApp up there. You want to donate, you can donate to the WhatsApp. We'll still get it. So we can accept goodwill offering. We do accept goodwill offering. So, matter of fact, let me post it. Hold on, folks. I'm coming. Hold on. All right, let's continue. So the link is there. If you want to donate goodwill offering to us, we have our cash out there. You can donate, but not on a notion of you are coming to bribe us. All right. So if you think you want to bribe, you can take your money. We don't need it. But again, goodwill offering, hey, you can give it to us. We can maintain a platform. I mean, we want to maintain a platform, right? So let's continue here. Now, Nigeria. Let's look at this again. All right. So now we are going to history. We brought current event, right? Let's go to history here.
Listen to this video. This is how United States conducts their coup d'etat. Remove any government, any world leaders they don't want again. Listen.
Powerful countries around the world have a secret weapon they use to remove the leader of any country. That weapon is called a coup. The word coup comes from the French language. It means to strike, cut, or forcefully take something away. In politics, it means when a country's leader is removed by force and someone else is put in charge instead. Whenever a coup takes place in any country, there's usually more than one reason behind it and more than one player involved. But in today's video, I'm going to show you how, over the last 100 years, the United States has used coups in other countries to protect and promote its own interests. And by the end of this video, you might start to question everything you thought about international laws and global rules, because the truth is they often don't mean much. In the end, the one with the most power makes the rules and breaks them as they please. Now, the countries I'll talk about today all have one thing in common, and that is America's direct role in the coups that happened there has been proven. Each of these events is big enough for its own separate documentary, but I'll keep things short and to the point so we can cover them all in one go. Let's start with the year 1893. This was the year when America did a coup in other country for the very first time. Around 3,000 miles away from the United States, the Queen of Hawaii had become a threat to the American sugar business. Years earlier, American missionaries had arrived in Hawaii to spread Christianity, but they ended.
So basically, the Hawaii that you see that is part of the US today was not part of the US. The Hawaii have their own government. They have their own queen. They have their own system, right? Free, independent. Okay? But what happened? Boom. Watch out.
Ended up buying a lot of land and started large-scale sugar farming. Most of that sugar was being exported to America, while the local Hawaiian people saw very little profit. When the Queen tried to introduce a new constitution to limit the power of these sugar businessmen, it caught the attention of the big sugar mill owners back in the US. Not long after that, the American military sent warships to Hawaii. With support from a few local allies, they removed the Queen from power and installed one of the same Christian missionaries as the new president of Hawaii. This was the first time America successfully intervened in another country and helped overthrow its government. And like the saying goes, once a lion tastes blood, it doesn't stop at just one village. Something very similar happened with America after this. Now let's move to the year 1895. At that time, the Spanish Empire was falling apart. Most of its major colonies were experiencing uprisings and revolutions, especially Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. Meanwhile, America was becoming a rising superpower, and it didn't like that Spain still controlled these nearby islands because they were in very strategic locations. The United States was waiting for the right moment, and it finally got one when one of its ships exploded near Puerto Rico. America immediately blamed the Spanish Empire for the incident. That gave the US a reason to officially join the war between Spain and the local rebels. America told the people of Puerto Rico, Cuba, Guam and the Philippines that if they helped fight off the Spanish, they would be granted freedom afterward. With US military support, the locals managed to push the Spanish Empire out. But instead of giving those countries their promised freedom, the US installed its own puppet leaders in all 4 places. So in just 8 years, America had already carried out coups in several countries and set up governments that suited its own interests. Now let's jump to the year 1909. In Central America, there's a country called Nicaragua. Its land is perfect for growing coffee, and many American companies had already invested there, exporting coffee beans around the world. Then elections were held, and a new president came to power. He didn't like how American companies were exploiting Nicaragua's resources, so he tried to introduce some regulations. But America didn't want that. So, the US started spreading propaganda against the president, claiming he was planning to build a canal similar to the Panama Canal. Even neighboring countries believed the rumor and turned against him. Years later, it became clear this was completely false. Meanwhile, a rebellion broke out in Nicaragua. America sent its navy to help the rebels. With US support, they won, and the president was forced to resign. As expected, America installed a leader it preferred. Just 2 years later, in 1911, America did something similar in Honduras, Nicaragua's neighbor. The president there was also trying to control American companies, this time in the banana trade. Behind the banana industry was an American businessman named Sam the Banana Man. He had so much power that he brought in a private army to fight in Honduras and protect his business. The US government said nothing. When the situation got in.
Now, just to add to that, right? This is what exactly they also did in Liberia in the 1926. They did that. And that guy was T. Harvey. The same way this guy, they call the Banana Man in Nicaragua, right? Whatsoever they called it. They did the same thing. Steve Harvey did the same thing in Liberia, the Firestone. So 1926, that idiot sat down because he came from, how they call this place? Congo. He was in Congo. All right, he was in Congo. All right, doing the rubber business. But again, Congo was a Belgian colony, was not a U.S. colony. So the king of Leopold, I don't want to call him king, but for historical purpose, right? The king of Leopold, Belgium at that time, Leopold, kicked him out. Okay? Because he was an American man. That was not an American colony. So kick him out. And when they kick him out, and then he decided, hey, America have a colony. That was Liberia. That was how he went to Liberia. All right? In 1926. And then he went and wrote a memo. He wrote on how to acquire land in Liberia without any tension. Because at that time, the rebellion slaves were the one in controlling Liberia at that time. All right? The rebellion slaves, they were never free slaves. We know the history. They lied to us and said it was free slave. The land was created to carry free slave there because America loved them so much. We're talking about 1822. When did America stop slavery? 1865. And after they stopped slavery, what happened? 1866. Jim Crow law. White only, black only, Plessy versus Ferguson. So you love black people that much. You stay treated them, but you took 300 people, took them to Liberia, a settlers colony to maintain your colony. Then you say you love black people. Then 1924, what did you do to Marco Garvey? You impressed him when Marco Garvey decided to send about 500 men in Liberia. When Marco Garvey decided, okay, we are free, we need to go to Liberia. Were those people not free? You caught Marco Garvey, you put him in jail. The 500 men that left from here that went to Liberia, they couldn't come back. Some of them fled and went to Ethiopia. Some of them fled and went to today Sierra Leone. Because they couldn't stay there. Because the people that were there ruling Liberia at that time, the American Liberian or the rebellion slaves, they were already in the pocket of the U.S. So they couldn't even protect their brothers and sisters who were in the UNIA that left from here that went there. They fled for their life. So folks, be careful here when anybody come and tell you Liberia was created to carry free slaves. It's all lie. It's whitewash history. All right? So Harvey Firestone, they kick him out from DRC Congo, the king of Belgium. So he came to Liberia because Liberia was an American colony. So these idiots sat down and wrote how he was going to acquire land and how he was going to use the native people there, right? Enslave them on the plantation to grow rubber, right? And then to harvest rubber. So when he did it, he went without the approval of the American government because he felt that it was slave that was controlling the land. He went there with the memo. Now, not all the slaves, the rebellious slaves that were bad. Some of them decided, hell no, we can't do this. We were in the U.S., even though we control the colony for the U.S. and we get benefit from it, right? We still getting benefit because if we refuse, they will take us back to the U.S. and enslave us because our brothers and sisters are not yet free. They are still slaves there, right? So, what they did was some of them disagreed and said, no, we are not going to enslave our brothers and sisters. We're not going to do that. We know what slavery is. Some of them in the house disagree. What Harvey Firestone did, he came back to the U.S. Came back to the U.S., told the United States government what have happened in Liberia. What the U.S. did, sent a delegate in Liberia, 1926. And then some of the people that were in the house that disagreed to have a plantation to enslave the native people. What happened? The American government ran them out. Some of them fled for their life. Some of them they died. Some of them died. Some of them were killed. And some of them fled for their life. They went to Sierra Leone again for refuge. And they never came back. They stayed there up to today. Those people, they are Sierra Leonean. And they are African. That put it that way and forget about the colonial border. They are African, but they went in Sierra Leone, they stayed there. Fast forward, that's how Harvey Firestone was able to have grant because Harvey Firestone wrote and said he's going to pay 10 cents or 5 cents per acre for land. So that at least history will prove that he paid for it. And then they will say it was the people that sold the land. At that time, native men never had power. Native men were never any citizens since 1847. Native men start getting some citizenship or recognition in the 1980s. And these are some of the things that brought a coup. I mean, not a coup anyway, but that brought a disunity. And then they say Washington, D.C. used it as a means to create a narrative, right? And then went in, they removed leaders. You see it? But 1904, it was Arthur Barclay. Arthur Barclay, again, was never taken to Liberia by the American Liberia or by ACS or by the United States government. Just like E.J. Raw, Arthur Barclay left Barbados by himself and went to Liberia. So when he became president, his leadership style was different. But again, he was afraid because he saw how E.J. Raw, who left from the U.S. and went to Liberia by himself, wanted to change to bring the native people in. They killed him. E.J. Raw too wanted to do the same thing, but he was afraid that it was going to kill him. But however, E.J. Raw, 1904, was the man that recognized the native people. Even though he did not get in citizenship, but he recognized them. Even though he did not bring them into government, but he recognized them. And said, no, we have to stop treating these people. They are our people. We have to stop it. But he was still afraid they were going to kill him. But he recognized them and left it. So that went on. So fast forward, Harvey Firestone got the land by the United States government, through the United States government influence in a colony. And then they enslaved the native. We're talking about 1926 now. And that time, that was Andrew. Andrew now was the leaders at that time. Andrew, Liberia, you know your history, right? Go learn your history and talk about the creator free slave, land to carry free slave. They love you that much. Even the free slave, they still carrying that narrative. They love you that much. When your people are still in captivity here up to 1865 and then 1868. Then Jim Crow law came in and things. But let's continue. We're not here for that. We're talking about Liberia. And then let's leave Liberia. We're talking about this. So that's how these people operate. So the same way they did it with the banana man, that's how they did it in Liberia. Harvey Firestone. took our land, enslaved our people, never built nothing, no factory, nothing, up to then they use it to build an empire. Go to Liberia today. We cannot produce even this. Sorry to show you, but you see this footwear, we cannot produce it in Liberia. But rubber is from there. Rubber is from there. Firestone, when you hear Firestone, that's Liberia. If you walk in the US and you see Bridgestone, that's Liberia. But we cannot produce, any later material. We cannot produce nothing. We can't even produce the water bottle. This water bottle, we can't produce it there. So that's why Tinubu went to China. So before Tinubu went to China, Tinubu came to the US and told them what we want. The US don't see it to build your country, to build your economy. They say no. So Tinubu went to China. When Tinubu went to China, they did not hear Trump saying we will go there and blow everything up. You're going to fight Boko Haram. Then why are you going to blow everything out? Nigeria, are you getting it? And then after they blow everything out, they settle there. They're not eating. Well, do you think the US military just going to come if you allow them come? And then after they destroy Boko Haram, like you say, when they destroy Boko Haram, then you think they're just going to walk out and leave? You will be dreaming. Their plan is to have a base because the Sahel, they're no longer there. They are out. In our part of West Africa and thing, maybe only in Ghana. And we're hoping for Ghana to remove them. The AFRICOM, let Ghana remove them. But it's for them to come and have a base there to settle. And then when they blow everything off, the 24 billion contract, they come and blow it off in the name of killing Boko Haram. And then they settle there. And then they intimidate your next leader that will come. If you vote now, you remove Tinubu, and then you think that you vote for Peter Obi, then Peter Obi come, right? And then Peter Obi is not in their favor. They will intimidate Peter Obi. They were threatening Peter Obi. They will put fear in Peter Obi. Because your military will not be powerful because you have foreign military in your country. Peter Obi will not be powerful. He will be the threat. So think to us. Be smart. It is not about Christian.
State conduct.
Got one when one of its ships exploded near Puerto Rico. America immediately blamed the Spanish Empire for the incident. That gave the US a reason to officially join the war between Spain and the local rebels. America told the people of Puerto Rico, Cuba, Guam, and the Philippines that if they helped fight off the Spanish, they would be granted freedom afterward. With US military support, the locals managed to push the Spanish Empire out. But instead of giving those countries their promised freedom, the US installed its own puppet leaders in all 4 places. So in just 8 years, America had already carried out coups in several countries and set up governments that suited its own interests. Now let's jump to the year 1909. In Central America, there's a country called Nicaragua. Its land is perfect for growing coffee, and many American companies had already invested there, exporting coffee beans around the world. Then elections were held, and a new president came to power. He didn't like how American companies were exploiting Nicaragua's resources, so he tried to introduce some regulations. But America didn't want that. So, the US started spreading propaganda against the president, claiming he was planning to build a canal similar to the Panama Canal. Even neighboring countries believed the rumor and turned against him. Years later, it became clear this was completely false. Meanwhile, a rebellion broke out in Nicaragua. America sent its navy to help the rebels. With US support, they won, and the president was forced to resign. As expected, America installed a leader it preferred. Just 2 years later, in 1911, America did something similar in Honduras, Nicaragua's neighbor. The president there was also trying to control American companies. This time, in the banana trade. Behind the banana industry was an American businessman named Sam the Banana Man. He had so much power that he brought in a private army to fight in Honduras and protect his business. The US government said nothing. When the situation got intense, the US stepped in to negotiate a ceasefire. The Honduran president was forced to step down. Then Sam the Banana Man helped appoint a new president who supported him. That new leader gave Sam more land and made his companies tax-free. In short, one American businessman ended up toppling an entire government. Alright, now let's fast forward to the 1950s. By this time, America had become a global superpower. Its intelligence agency, the CIA, had completely changed how modern warfare was carried out. America wasn't just focusing on nearby countries anymore. It had started interfering all over the world. The US had one major enemy at this time, the Soviet Union. America was determined to stop the spread of the Soviet Union's communist ideology at any cost. And this brings us to Iran. In 1953, Iran held elections and Mohammad Mossadegh became prime minister. He wanted to take back control of Iran's oil from the British. Back then, a British company called Anglo-Iranian controlled all of Iran's oil. Mossadegh wanted to nationalize the oil industry. Basically, he wanted the Iranian government to own it. The British didn't like this idea. They warned Mossadegh that there would be consequences. Soon, the British government met with the CIA and both decided that Mossadegh had to be removed. So the CIA secretly sent its Middle East chief, Kermit Roosevelt, to Iran. His mission was simple: remove Mossadegh. Kermit started bribing politicians and religious leaders to turn them against Mossadegh. Fake propaganda was spread across the country. Some religious leaders were even attacked, and Mossadegh was blamed for it. As protests broke out, violence spread. Shops were set on fire, and police were attacked with stones. In response, police opened fire, killing hundreds. Things in Tehran spiraled out of control. In the end, Mossadegh had to resign. He was arrested, put on trial, and kept under house arrest for the rest of his life. To replace him, the US and UK brought in Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, making him the king of Iran.
5 centuries. His title is King of Kings, and he becomes emperor of his nation.
This was a big win for America. In a powerful country like Iran, they had installed a pro-Western, pro-American ruler. Shah opened Iran to American oil companies, but his rule turned Iran into a police state. Anyone who opposed him, politicians, military officers, religious leaders, students, was silenced. Over time, the oppression got worse. In 1979, the people finally had enough. They filled the streets and Shah had to flee the country. A religious leader named Ayatollah Khomeini replaced him and completely changed Iran's direction, both politically and culturally. America's former ally had now become its enemy. If you look closely, you'll see that the real reason behind the 1979 Iranian Revolution was actually the 1953 coup backed by America. And just a year after the Iran coup, in 1954, America pulled off the same playbook in Guatemala. There, a democratically elected prime minister tried to place restrictions on American companies that had monopolized the country's electricity and railroads. He also took land from banana companies and gave it to regular people so they could grow food. Just like in Honduras, American banana businesses had a lot of power in Guatemala too, so the US decided this prime minister had to go. The US President and Secretary of State ordered the CIA to carry out a coup. The CIA supplied weapons to retired Guatemalan soldiers and armed civilians. They also set up a fake radio station in Florida that broadcasted in Spanish, pretending a revolution had started in Guatemala. While the radio faked the news, the CIA-backed forces began attacking government buildings. It looked like a real civil war had started, but only the Guatemalan president knew the truth. The pressure became too much, and eventually the president stepped down. The CIA then placed their chosen man in charge. What followed was decades of chaos, killings, political violence, and instability, and the country still hasn't fully recovered. One coup, driven by American business interests, ruined Guatemala's future. And even after 70 years, the country continues to suffer. Anyway, now let's talk about Africa. The year was 1960. In the middle of Africa, there's a country called Congo that had just gained independence from Belgium. After holding fresh elections, a man named Patrice Lumumba became the prime minister. This made America very nervous because the Cold War was in full swing, and Congo had a lot of natural resources, especially uranium, which is used to make nuclear bombs. America didn't want such a rich country to have an independent leader, so once again, the US government gave.
And that's how currently the US is never about Nigeria. Because folks, like we said last week, Nigeria, regardless what, we are not going to disrespect Nigeria. That will not happen. We might talk about the colonial puppets, the colonial leader, and we may talk about the legislature, the executive, what's the other one? The judiciary, right? These lawmaking body, we might talk about them as being stupid. We might talk about them as being corrupt, but not the nation, not the people. Regardless what, we will not, because of Western influence, and then they respect Nigeria. They are our superpower. They are the people Africa look up to. So the West know it, and the West have panic. If Nigeria can go to China, then that means the rest of the other nation will follow. Like we've been saying it here. Nigeria is the problem to the peace and security or stability to Africa. Nigeria is the problem. So you saw in the first video that we watched that Nigeria make deal with Boko Haram. Nigeria make deal with the West not to do anything. And then when they go for weapon, the same West told the people not to sell weapon to Nigeria. And then later on, they got to know. Why will Boko Haram come to the army base or whatsoever then when some soldier want to fight and then call come from overseas or whatsoever and say, no, don't do it. So Nigeria is the problem. If Nigeria just wake up today and say, look, Ghana, you know what? We are ready for unity. Let us put this colonial bulletin aside. Because guess what? Poverty is in Nigeria. Poverty is in Ghana. Poverty is in Africa. Poverty is in Benin. Poverty is in Liberia. Poverty is in Sierra Leone. Poverty is poverty going. So if Nigeria decide today is it. Today, that's it. Let us unite. Let us have one united army. Look, I'm telling you, if Nigeria decide today is it. So for Nigeria to turn to China, and then China come in less than a year, China has spent coming about $24 billion just in October alone, $24 billion to invest in our region. You know what's going to happen? It was not about coming, the Chinese policies, right? It's different from the US policy. The Chinese policy is not about coming and give the $24 billion to the politician and then get our resources and leave, because that's how the US do it. The US come and buy the politician. The US come and buy the decision maker. The US come and buy the influential people in society. Buy them, not to do development. Buy them, give them the money. And then these people will take that same money and then bring it back to the US and put it in the US economy. Yeah, it is the US economy because they will come and put it in a bank. In or Bank of America, Wackovia's bank, put it in there to save it there. The Chinese is not coming for that. The Chinese are coming with 50-50. We are coming to build your infrastructure. We are coming to build infrastructure so that you can produce your gold. You see what's going on? First time ever since the 60s. In fact, not even since the 60s. Since after the days of Mansa Musa. Since after the day of Alio Musa. Since after their days. That region, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, they have never had gold reserve. After those people have left, and the French came in, all the colonial people came in. And then they stole, first of all, when they came, the gold that was there, the gold reserve, the French stole it. The British stole it. The gold reserve. They stole it and took it first. Then before they start digging mining the gold and things, they stole it. The gold reserve Mansa Musa had, the gold reserve Alio Musa had, the gold reserve Queen Nzinga had, the gold reserve these people had. They took those gold reserves, they stole it. These Westerners, they are thieves. They stole it. Then before bringing in foreign companies. Since that time, Up to the 60s, we gained independence. Our goal just been going to France. But it was through Ibrahim Traore. Why you think now they have a gold reserve? They have their first gold reserve in the 21st century. Where is it coming from? Because factory. They did a man with non-colonial nation, I call it colonial father or colonial mother, as you can call it, with the US and the NATO nation thing. They were made deal with China and Russia. Now they are manufacturing their own gold bag. And now first time ever for them to have gold reserve. First time ever for them to have uranium reserve in Niger. First time ever. The US is not going to do that. England is not going to do that. This NATO nation, they are not going to do that. So the Chinese came in and said, we will build the factory. So they came to build in Nigeria. So that it will create more jobs, so that the Nigerians will have reserve and store their thing for generations to come and use it. So Washington DC panic. Now they are coming out with narrative, Christian, Muslim killing Christians, so that they can go and settle there. And then Trump said, when we go there, we're going to blow off everything. So the investment Nigeria is about to make in that 24 billion to create job opportunity so that they can be able to manufacture their own mineral resources and reserve it and use some and keep some for next generation to come and think and take over. Donald Trump said, when they go, they will blow it off. Because that's what they know for, according to history.
The CIA a mission, remove Lumumba from power. Using money, connections and propaganda, the CIA pulled it off, but many people died in the process, including the Prime Minister himself. Still, the CIA got what it wanted. Now it's 1963. In Southeast Asia, Vietnam had become the center of attention for both global superpowers. Back then, Vietnam was divided into two parts, the Communist North and the Western-backed South. The story of Vietnam is long, and we'll cover it in another detailed video. But to put it simply, America wanted to keep control of South Vietnam. The president there was losing his grip, so the US decided it was time for another coup. This time, they chose a military general to carry it out. Unfortunately, the president was killed during the coup, even though the CIA didn't order that. But what followed was unexpected. Because of this coup, America got stuck in the Vietnam War for the next 10 years. It lost badly and was humiliated. This was the first time America faced the consequences of its own actions. We'll cover the Vietnam War in another video soon. In 1964, America did a similar coup in Brazil. It removed the government and installed a new president that the US liked. Now let's go back to Central America. The year is 1989, and the country is Panama. America had a big interest in Panama because of the Panama Canal, one of the world's most important trade routes. At that time, Panama's dictator was friendly with America, but US officials started losing trust in him. Then some Panamanian soldiers accidentally killed American soldiers. America had been waiting for an excuse like this. It sent 27,000 troops to Panama, crushed the military, and arrested the dictator. He was sentenced to 40 years in jail. Another government was overthrown. Now we go to South Asia, and the year is still 1989. There was a war going on between the Soviet Union and Afghanistan. The Soviets supported Afghan President Mohammad Najibullah, while America backed the Afghan Mujahideen. To help the Mujahideen, America gave billions of dollars in aid to Pakistan, which then passed that support to the Afghan fighters. Eventually, the Mujahideen won and the Soviets left. But the Mujahideen later turned into the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Just 12 years later, in 2001, America went to war against those same groups and destroyed Afghanistan. Now it's 2003, and America has shifted its focus to Iraq. The US wanted to remove Saddam Hussein at all costs. We've already made a video explaining why, and you should definitely check that one out if you want to understand the full background. In 2003, America invaded Iraq, saying it was looking for chemical weapons. In a matter of weeks, Saddam's government was removed and replaced with one friendly to America. 3 years later, in 2006, Saddam was executed. Another American-backed coup was completed. But this time it led to something even worse. Terrorist groups like ISIS were born and went on to destabilize the entire Middle East. Even today, these groups remain a threat. Now let's talk about the final coup in this video. The year is 2011, and protests had started across the Arab world. These protests were called the Arab Spring. One major hotspot was Libya, where Muammar Gaddafi had been in power for 32 years. Many Libyans were unhappy with his rule. Gaddafi was strongly against America and NATO. NATO, the protests gave the US a perfect chance to remove him. Once again, America pushed for a coup, but this time NATO joined in. NATO drones attacked Gaddafi's convoy, and he was eventually caught and killed on the spot. Since then, Libya has remained in chaos and has never been stable again. This might be one of the most detailed videos we've done on this channel, but it's also one of the most important. It shows just how far powerful countries and people will go to protect their interests. If you have power, even the law will bow to you. We may not like it, but this is how global politics work. Let's see what happens next. Will America pick another country as its target, or will it start facing internal divisions or...
Yes, America have picked another a country as a target, and that is Nigeria.
To know what is causing problem between Russia.
Wanted to or currently wants to conquer Ukraine and Eastern Europe.
Guys, take a look at this video. If you really want to know what is causing problem between Russia, Ukraine, and NATO, European countries, listen.
Do you think Putin wanted to or currently wants to conquer Ukraine and Eastern Europe?
Oh, no, I've never thought that. You know, going back to the Clinton.
By the way, let me make this disclaimer again. This video is for educational purpose only. This podcast is for educational purpose only. It is not a video of propaganda against the US in favor of China or Russia. Like we've been saying here, and we say it again. What we say here is for the interest of the African globally. It is for the interest of African nations globally. It is for the interest of the African continent. It is for the interest of the African people. Outside of that, we don't really care to discuss anything. So we show this video and we are discussing it because we want for African to wake up. We want for Black people around the world to wake up and stop being used. Because it is the same system, right? But just being used in different ways. They are so sophisticated in using us, in using Black people. It's the same system, never changed. So we are showing it for African people, for Black people around the world, right? To be aware of the system, all right? So it is not a video or a podcast or a topic against anybody or for anybody, but for African worldwide interests and for our continent and nations.
Administration. When Putin first became president, at the very tail end of Bill Clinton's presidency, he floated the idea of Russia joining NATO. And Clinton said, yeah, I don't think we really like that.
Russia?
Yeah, Russia joining NATO. Because the Soviet Union's gone. We're all friends now, right? The peace dividend we're always talking about. How are we going to spend the peace dividend? Right. We don't need to spend money on defense anymore.
Right.
Hardy har har. So Clinton's like, we don't really like that idea very much. And he said, okay, if you won't let Russia in NATO, at least don't allow any of the countries on our border to join NATO. And Clinton said, that we can agree to. Next thing you know, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and Poland all join NATO directly on the Russian border. And he's like, hey, you promised us that you wouldn't let any of these countries join NATO. Sorry, we changed our minds. Right. Yeah, strategic planning and all. Then when Obama becomes president, at a summit with Putin, Putin said, I spoke with Clinton years ago about Russia joining NATO. It's something that we would like to explore.
Who said this again?
Putin. To Obama. And Obama said, no, we don't like that idea. We don't think that's going to happen. And he said, okay, well, you guys lied to me about these other countries joining NATO. So don't allow Ukraine to join NATO. This is going to be a serious problem otherwise. And he's like, okay, We won't. And then Joe Biden becomes president, and he's like, oh, Ukraine would be a great addition to NATO and the European Union. And the Russians said, we've had enough. There was a pro-Russian government in Ukraine that was overthrown at the urge of the United States in 2014. As if that wasn't bad enough, as soon as that happens, then they want to talk about Ukraine joining NATO. So the Russians said, we've had enough. That's the background to Ukraine. I don't think that the Russians have any... I don't think that they're expansionist as a matter of policy. They have a history of expansionism, certainly, just like we do. The Chinese do not, but we do, and the Russians do.
But we don't expand that way, right? We expand in a weird way of just gaining influence over the country. We don't make them party. Like America is not a traditional empire. Like you look at the British Empire, right? Like
correct.
We just have these other countries that depend on us, and we basically control that. We have all the influence in those countries.
Yeah, but then the Libyans would say that's wrong, and the Afghans would say that's wrong, and the Chinese would say that's wrong because of what we're doing with Taiwan now.
It's wrong, and it's wrong that we do it, or it's not true.
Well, it's not true. Look at Libya.
All right. I'm glad he just said it about what the U.S. is doing with Taiwan. That's the same thing they did with Russia. So you saw it, and we showed this before here. They tried to do the same thing with Taiwan and China. They were pumping off Taiwan to go against China, when very well they know that Taiwan cannot fight China. They know that Taiwan does not have the weight to fight China. But they was pumping Taiwan that, oh, we'll give him weapon, we'll give him this. They say when they pump Ukraine, we'll give you weapon, we'll give you this. They try to pump Taiwan, we'll give you weapon, we'll give you this, we'll give you this to go fight a team, blah, 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 blah. At the end, the Chinese told Taiwanese, don't try it. We are brothers, we are sisters, we are neighbors. Don't allow the West. You will lose, not us. You will die, not us. Maybe few of our people will die, because I can't just say you will not kill maybe few of our army. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is you will lose this war. And at the end, we might even make Taiwan to be part of China now. You will be under China government. That's how Taiwan slowed down. And you heard what he said in this video. We try to do the same thing with Taiwan. Now, that's the same thing they try to do with Nigeria again, with the whole Christian and Muslim thing. But this time around, they are not going to send the weapon. That's not their aim. Because Nigeria have been asking them, Nigeria have been going, asking people to get them weapon to fight Boko Haram. But they told those nations not to sell weapon to Nigeria. So the case with Ukraine, that won't be the case with Nigeria, because the US did not want to go in directly. NATO did not want to go in directly to fight Russia, because now it was going to be like the thing they call World War III now. So they were giving an army ammunition. But with Nigeria, they won't give army ammunition. The US herself want to go in, right, to go establish her military base there. Because if she dare try go there, she's not leaving. Because her aim is to get in first. Her aim is to get her 2 foot in there. That's it. Whether she will not fight Boko Haram or not fight Boko Haram, but it's to sit there. And then while she's in there, I mean, the US is already in Ghana. If they actually want to fight Boko Haram, they don't have to go to have base in Nigeria. They're already in Ghana. They're already in Ghana. And Ghana, they're just there. Ghana, Nigeria, it's just there. So why would you want to go have base in Ghana? I mean, Nigeria. So it's not to go kill Boko Haram. It's to have a base there to intimidate the Sahel nation. It's to have base there to intimidate China. So the US not there going there for competition with China to say, okay, you know what, say the Chinese are coming with 24 billion. Just in October, the Chinese have come with 24 billion to build factory, to provide job. Okay, you know what? We're going to double that. We are going to come with 50 billion to build factory too. So Nigeria can work. So Nigeria can be able to produce. So we ourselves, we can gain too. America is not going to do that. America will come with their base. Then we see that doing Ebola time in Liberia. When the Chinese were bringing their medical supplies, when the Cuban were bringing medical supplies, America was talking about carrying military. Oh, this country is very interesting. America was talking about carrying their military to go fight Ebola. You're going to fight Ebola with World War II weapons, World War III weapons. When the Chinese were going with military, with the medical personnel, the Cuban, thank God to the Cuban. Cuba went there with in Liberia with the medical personnel, and after they fought Liberia. They fought Ebola in Liberia. They left. While the US were talking about they're going with their military there. You see how they play phone out of people? So that's the same thing they want to do to Nigeria. It's not about fighting Boko Haram. They just want to go in there and have a base and stay there.
Just as the easiest example, Steve Kappas, who was the deputy director of the CIA, made a secret at the time, not secret anymore, trip to Libya in the immediate aftermath of the start of the Iraq War.
With what you just heard right now, I believe you cannot know the cause of this war. Who caused this war between Russia and Ukraine?
And Gaddafi was being taken down. A number of African presidents said, wait, hold. We will fly into Libya and we can have some kind of diplomatic conversations. The feedback from external actors to them was, if you fly into Libyan airspace, we cannot guarantee your security. I want you to think about that for a minute, that heads of state of the African continent were told this on our continent. And ladies and gentlemen, what is Libya today? What is Libya today? And it happened on our watch. It happened on our watch. Ladies and gentlemen, Rwanda 1994. Dilly-dallying over the word genocide at the United Nations Security Council saw 1 million people dead in how many days? And who solved the problem? We had to solve the problem. His Excellency and a small force came back in and had to build this country from scratch, ladies and gentlemen. And today we still get lectures and hear lectures about human rights, and there's something wrong. I want to talk about South Africa today. In South Africa today, we are hearing narratives being built around white genocide in South Africa. You are security actors, you understand the import of these narratives and why are they being placed in the international scene? Why is this happening? What could it open up? Gaza today, ladies and gentlemen, where we've seen the brutalization and the massacre of tens of thousands of children. the multilateral systems. 54 nations, a strong continent, resource-rich, fastest-growing continent in the world. Where do we deserve to sit?
Voice of Africa by Africa.
The level of propaganda in the West, particularly in the United States, to portray Russia as this threat to Western values, threat to freedom, to democracy, ignoring all the time that it has been the United States that's been threatening Russia over the last 30 years. When you go back and look at the history, starting with the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia made repeated attempts to say, hey, can we be part of NATO? Let us be part of the West. Totally rejected, completely rejected. I went back and did a study of NATO, and in terms of NATO military exercises with Ukraine. Ukraine is not officially a member of NATO yet. When you look at the number of military exercises that have been carried out with Ukraine over the last 30 years, there are now, 32 members of NATO? Of those 32 members of NATO, there are only 6 countries in NATO that have carried out more military exercises under NATO than Ukraine. In other words, Ukraine has carried out more military exercises with NATO than 24 of the other countries. Starting in 1995, NATO set up a de facto military base in Yavoriv, which is in western Ukraine. So throughout this period, Russia has been continuing to try to become part of, to cooperate with, collaborate with the West, constantly rejected. And I think one of the reasons is the West has to have an enemy in order to justify a $1 trillion defense budget.
You told me that you worked in Ukraine on the ground on a military basis.
Yeah.
Why that? What happened?
Well, again, the goal, Russia, by virtue of being the #1 country in the world in terms of natural resources, not just oil and gas, minerals of all sorts. The West wants to have it, wants to control that. They cannot stand the idea that Russia is the largest country in terms of landmass, encompassing 11 time zones. That's twice the size of the United States. The West simply cannot abide the concept of a free Russia. Russia is seen as something that must be dominated, controlled, and under this, complete control of the West.
And that's the same thing. That's how they think about Africa. Their plan is not to see freed Africa. That is why, because their plan is not to see free Africa, that is why they support terrorists, they support Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda access, and then they tell nations not to sell ammunition to African nations to fight Boko Haram or the terrorists. Because their aim is not to see a free Africa. That's why they say Africa will never have a veto power on the United Nations, because if Africa do have a veto power, the United Nations will become dysfunctional. And then we see some of these stupid African leaders still coming to the UN giving stupid speeches.
Now, the Russians aren't cooperating. They've decided, no, we prefer to run our own country.
What happened on this military base in Ukraine?
Well,
sorry, folks. Let me make another point. Like we've been saying here, right? It is not about promoting Russia, but it's about exposing the West of how they think about Africa, and also how we can see how other people, right, have built to empower themselves after the West have denied them. Because once upon a time, Russia was not powerful. And the reason why Russia decided to get powerful is because how the United States and NATO have denied Russia from becoming part of NATO. So henceforth, Russia know that, wait a minute, something wrong here. If these nations are denying us from joining them, from becoming part of them, that means we are on our own in the first place. We are on our own. We have to build ourselves. That means we have to be economically independent, socially independent, politically independent. And politically independent also involves building our own military capability and becoming military might. If not, there's a reason these people do not want us to be part of them, because they see us as enemy. If they see us as enemy, that means they can come at us at any time. And that is why Italy made a deal that certain nations around the Russian border should not join NATO. They still went ahead and make them to join NATO. And they still went ahead. 2014, they carried on coup in Russia, in Ukraine, for their own government. First of all, after 2018, then they decided to go and have a military base in Russia back here in Ukraine. So, because Russia saw all of these things, they decided to build themselves, to protect and fight for themselves when such day come, and the day came. So Russia was already built and prepared for it. Now, the reason why we are showing some of these videos is for African leaders, because we are not in authority. We are not in power. The truth is, we are powerless. We can do nothing, because even the platform we're sitting on, it can be tampered with and it will be gone, and we will lose it. We will have no area to present like they did to the African stream. So maybe we'll have we'll have to go on other people's platform and then speak like the way African stream doing it, where somebody just interview you and then you speak your mind. So we don't have the power. It is the leaders who are there who have the power to make things happen. Like you say in the AES. What they did was to come together, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. Because unity is strength. And divided we fall, and divided they conquer us. So Russian they began to build themselves, to see themselves as, you know what, we don't have Allah, we don't have friends, but we have enemies. And these enemies can come. The same way they came to destroy the USSR, that's how they will come back to destroy us. So we need to build ourselves. The Russians build themselves. So Africa, the same way they are refusing for us to have veto power. And they say if we have veto power on the United Nations will become useless and dysfunctional. The same way they can support terrorists, Boko Haram, ISIS, Al-Qaeda on the African continent. And then they ask other nations who want to sell weapons to us to fight the terrorists. And then they said, no, those nations shouldn't sell our weapons. But meanwhile, their agency, their organization, their NGO, their USAID are supporting terrorists with American taxpayer money. Instead of them using the American taxpayer money to buy ammunition to give it to the African nations to fight the terrorists, but rather they are telling people not to sell weapons to Africans to fight the terrorists. That means we have to put our differences aside and put those colonial bullies aside and unite and build and defend ourselves. Nobody defend the Russian build and they defending themselves. The Chinese, the Indian, and the list can go on. Nobody fight for you.
For example, one of the activities at that base was training Ukraine to conduct cyber warfare activities against Russia. That used to be on the website. Prior to the start of the special military operation, that was listed there as one of the activities. Russia struck Yavoriv, I believe it was March 13th of 2022. And they did so because it was being used as a staging base for foreign mercenaries that were entering the fight on behalf of Ukraine. And so when Russia hit it, I recall it sent shockwaves
And this is
through the Pentagon, through the U.S. military, because they really didn't believe that Russia had that capability to hit with they struck with a hypersonic missile. And it killed a number of foreign mercenaries. And that wasn't the first time it was struck, but that wasn't the last time it was struck, but it was the first time. So Yavoriv became somewhat of a symbol of the forward activity of NATO. And after that, NATO, they tried to erase NATO's signature. But the fact of the matter has been that this war has been a de facto war between Russia and NATO. Ukraine is just a mere proxy, and the efforts of the West, particularly with Ukraine from 1995 forward, was to build Ukraine up militarily so that it could be used as a wedge attacking Russia. And there are actually many that believe that it would defeat Russia. And in defeating Russia, that would become subservient to the West.
That means the United States and NATO tried to make Ukraine a kind of transmission belt for a proxy war.
Correct.
Since the mid-90s.
Yes. Now, this was put into a paper that was written for RAND Corporation, I believe in 2019. There was a subsequent paper was produced by a man named Aaron Wes Mitchell that was submitted to the Pentagon in, I believe it was December of 2020. Both of those papers stated that the real threat is China. But to deal with China, you have to split Russia away from China. You had to defeat Russia militarily. And in a weakened state militarily, Russia would then become an ally of the West, could join with the West in attacking China. So the long-term view, at least within, if you want to call it Western strategy, is to ultimately attack China. China is seen as the big threat. But for right now, Russia became the surrogate. And frankly, Russia has not cooperated. Russia has effectively defeated NATO. They have exposed NATO as a paper tiger. Even though Trump likes to refer to Russia as a paper tiger, the reality is on every single advanced weapon system that NATO introduced into the theater, whether TACAM missiles, HIMARS, Patriot missiles. The only one that hasn't, I guess, been introduced is the Taurus out of Germany. But Scalp, I think, out of France, Storm Shadow out of Britain. Russia's defeated them all. The countermeasures the Russians have developed have proven quite effective. F-16 was introduced, supposedly a game changer. Didn't. In the summer of 2022, the M777 howitzer with 155 millimeter shells. That was introduced, and then what they discovered is the West could not produce enough artillery shells to sustain Ukrainian military operations over a month period. Whereas even Mark Rutte, the current Secretary General of the UN, of NATO, admitted earlier this year that Russia produces more artillery shells in 3 months than all of the NATO countries, including the United States combined, can produce in a year. So what this war has exposed is the weakness of NATO militarily.
So we're gonna take this video out, right? It's long, we can't play all. But my point here is the reason why I'm playing this video is for Africans people to see only Africa can fight for Africa. Only African can fight for Africa. Only black people can fight for black people. No one else. So you see how over the years Russia said these people destroy the USSR, they can come back. We should fight to build ourselves militarily, even food agriculturally. We should produce food for ourselves, or else they can still come and kill us through food. They will poison food. And that is why black people, food have been poisoned, sickness, bioweapon, to the extent Bill Gates, who talk about depopulation of the African continent. He's going in Africa, asking African leaders that he want to produce food for African people to be eating, to be feeding African people. Does that make sense? That's why we play some of these videos, to understand that when they are coming, like I said, it's not about preaching for Russia and against anybody. But the point here is so that you can also understand the propaganda that have been played against Russia. But you see, people are sitting there telling you it's not Russia. In fact, Russia have been backing these people to be part of them. Russia backed NATO. They see where Africans are backing the so-called United Nations to be part of the United Nations. And they are saying no. And then we still have African, they get one non-permanency like Liberia. What kind of decision making you can get? Then they're so happy and celebrating passing around non-permanent seat. It simply means you are a slave. Just like doing slavery time or doing how they call it, or what they think, 1860 or I don't know what, Pleasant versus Ferguson, separable, equal, whatsoever the thing may be. In a classroom, you see black people sitting down way to the back there. And then white people sitting down to the front learning. And then on the same bus, black people to the back. That's the United Nations. That's the non-permanent seat. You sitting way on the other side. You are not at the table of the decision making. You can veto. These people can decide that we want to come and do this to Africa. They will come and do it. You will not say no. And I see Africans celebrating a non-permanent seat that have no meaning, that have no sense, and they're celebrating it. That's how these people deprive Russia from becoming part of NATO after Russia begged them. Even up to Obama time, Russia begged. And they said no. So that encouraged Russia to build herself. And Russia is built today. Africa. That's what we need to do. The time you take him to come to the West, begging them for crumb, begging them for loan, look at Libya did not have loan, but Libya was the most prosperous nation in Africa. And as we can see now, the Sahel nation, they're not begging for loan, but they are getting, how they call it, to be the most prosperous nations in Africa. Why you are still chasing World Bank, IMF? Why you are still chasing crumbs, begging people for $10 million, $15 million, $20 million that the politician will use to pay lawmakers, that the citizen will not even see it. But when the citizen hear that, oh, this president traveled and they gave 20 million, and then the citizens are happy. But the 20 million will be used to pay politicians, to make bad deals, to make bad concession agreements. And you're there happy. Instead of you asking for a leader like Burkina Faso, instead of you asking for a leader like Tiani, Exemi, and Abraham, instead of you asking for a leader like that, you are asking for leaders who will be puppet, still be flying to come and meet their colonial master, asking them for crumbs. And then the crumbs will be used to pay the cabinets, to pay the lawmaking bodies. And nothing at the end of the day, nothing reached for hospital, for schools, for agriculture, for roads, nothing. So we're going to take this out.
Country to hide. This is my country. I will not go to any foreign country to hide. This is my country, and I will die in this country. Into a forest. Now everything grows there. I turned that desert into a forest. Now everything grows there. When the Europeans and Americans say they love you, it is a lie. They do not love you. They love the oil of this country, the resources of this land, and the Libya that I created. They are helping you fight against me, but the wise thing would be for you to fight against them, because they are fighting against your future. Here is my final message to you. They are helping you to kill me, but you will surely pay the price by suffering after I am gone. At the beginning of this video, you heard Muammar Gaddafi's statement to his people, made just a few days before he was killed. The exact wording may vary slightly between translations and sources, but the essence remains consistent. This speech was given a few days before his death on October 20, 2011, in the province of Sirte, Libya. Less than 2 years after Gaddafi's fall, a major tragedy struck Libya. On September 10, 2023, 2 dams in the Libyan port city of Derna burst, completely destroying the city. More than 20,000 people were swept away in the massive flood that struck in the early morning. The Derna Dam was built by a Yugoslav company in the 1970s to protect the city from flooding. However, by 2003, both dams had fallen into disrepair. Accordingly, Libya's former leader Gaddafi called upon a group of Italian experts and asked them to provide a report on the condition of the 2 dams. In 2003, these experts issued a report stating that the 2 dams could not be repaired and that a 3rd dam must be built. Following this recommendation, in 2007, Muammar Gaddafi assigned a Turkish company to build the 3rd dam, and construction began the same year. Time slowly passed. Then came the Arab Spring. The people of Libya demanded democracy and began protesting against their ruler. As a result, the company constructing the dam had to halt work. During the uprising, the rebels seized all the trucks, cabs, and buses belonging to the construction company, armed them, and used them to fight against Gaddafi. Although the construction of the new dam was scheduled to be completed in 2012, it was never finished after Gaddafi's overthrow and assassination on October 20, 2011. This was a tragedy that the Libyan people could never have foreseen. By September 2023, the city of Derna had about 90,000 residents, most of whom had fought against Gaddafi. They never imagined that by stopping the dam project their leader had begun, and by killing that same leader, they would one day face such devastating consequences. See how ironic fate can be. Gaddafi ruled Libya from 1969 until his assassination in 2011. When he was finally killed, Libya's per capita income stood at $11,000, making it one of the most prosperous countries in Africa. He transformed a desert into a thriving nation and did many things for his people that are rarely spoken about. For example, electricity, healthcare, and education were all provided free of charge. If a student wished to study a subject unavailable in Libyan universities, they were offered scholarships to study abroad. Newly married couples received $50,000 to purchase their first home. In his famous Green Book, Gaddafi wrote, "A house is a basic human right," and he once vowed to give his parents a home only after every Libyan had one. For every barrel of oil sold, a share of the profit was deposited directly into citizens' bank accounts. When Gaddafi came to power, Libya's literacy rate was only 25%, but by the end of his rule it had risen to 83%. Another notable fact is that during Gaddafi's leadership, Libya owed no debt to any foreign nation, yet its foreign reserves stood at $150 billion. The current crisis in Libya cannot be summarized in a single video. To avoid making this video too long, I'll share the rest of the story in another part. In the next video, we'll discuss the origins of Gaddafi's downfall, the involvement of foreign intelligence agencies, and the biggest mistakes made during Obama's presidency. Don't forget to share your thoughts about this video in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed yet, click the red button below to join us.
Now, let's just as we watch over there. So again, let me say this before I forget. He said the biggest mistake Obama made. No, Obama did not make a mistake, because this was a plan from the United States government, according to Hillary Clinton, for 30 years for them to kill Gaddafi. So it was not a mistake. You can't plan somebody's death, somebody's destruction, the removal of somebody for 30 years, and then after you have finally gotten him, then you say it was a mistake. No, it was not a mistake. The United States did this not by mistake. Obama did it not by mistake. You cannot plan somebody's demise for 30 years and then you finally got the person and then you say it was a mistake. No. Now, why did we show this video? Why did I show this video? Nigerian, Africans, I showed this video. Look at all what this man said about Gaddafi. All the great things this man said about Gaddafi. The most prosperous nation in Africa at the time with Gaddafi. The only nations at the time in Africa, free healthcare, education free. The only nation in Africa at the time, the resources of the nation were used for the benefit of the people. Every paper, money going into their account without even working. You want to leave the nation to go overseas for school, the nation pay for it. Everything, they pay for it. Allowance, everything paid for, free of charge. If you don't want to land in Tripoli or in Benghazi or how they call it in Libya, it will pay for everything. Feeding, launching, staying, everything paid for. That is if you don't want to land in Libya. And at the same time, while you stay there, your account in Libya, money still going there. And then when you come back home, that money have accumulated is there. The resources was used. Now, the question here is to you, Nigerian, because you're calling for this. You guys are calling for this. The question here is, all of that Gaddafi did for Libya, transformed Libya, because when he became president, Libya was a desert. Nothing, absolutely nothing. It was a poverty nation, nothing. But he changed that desert to green land. He changed that desert to heaven, not hell. Because, like I said, hell is on earth and heaven is on earth. The life you live determines hell, and the life you live determines heaven. Okay? When you die, there's nowhere called heaven. That's just religions believe that they bring to manipulate, to brainwash you, so that if you want to do some things, you're afraid. But at the same time, the people that exploit you, you lead them to exploit you because you want to go to heaven. You don't need riches. You want that poor to go heaven. Jimmy Papa. But my point here is, Gaddafi did all of that, and the West saw it. Washington DC saw it. If it was for the love, if it was for the love of the Libyan, why did they kill Gaddafi? If it was for the love, because what Gaddafi did in Africa, the entire African continent, no leader at the time of Gaddafi, no leader on the African continent was doing it. And no nation on the African continent benefited from their national resources, unlike Gaddafi or unlike the people of Libya. But the US still went against him. NATO still went against him. And they said everything that Gaddafi did for his people was vanity. In fact, it was coming to provide better alternative for the Libyan. But today, see Libya. Is that a better alternative? No, you Nigerian, this is for y'all. This is for y'all. Now, Washington, D.C. is talking about they love you. They love one set of people and they hate one set of people. And to say every Muslim in the country are killer. If that's why you guys telling us now, you Christian, are you guys telling us, you Christian in Nigeria, are you guys telling us every Muslim in Nigeria, they are killer? Every Muslims in Nigeria are killing Christian? If that's what you're telling us. Don't be smart to understand the technicality of the West.
Continue in the capital Tripoli. Despite the announcement of a ceasefire, fresh gun battle erupted on Wednesday in Tripoli between two powerful armed groups.
Some of the activists today rejected completely what Saif al-Islam has said in his speech. The problem with this speech was that it was in a threatening tone and threatening language. Most of the people were expecting that it was a conciliatory.
By the way, this is Gaddafi's son who has returned to Libya. Okay? But watch what is going on in the videos. Because Nigerian, the Libyans are regretting. Now, the people, Washington, D.C. put in power after they killed Gaddafi. After Washington, D.C. and NATO killed Gaddafi. The people they put in power to provide democracy or better alternative for the Libyan, they are not. Because the Libyans, since the death of Gaddafi and Obama took over, because like we said, Obama is the president for Libya and Hillary Clinton is the prime minister, or as we speak, the general secretary, all right, for Libya. And since they've been there, Obama have been so corrupt, Obama and Hillary Clinton have been unable to provide the alternative life for the Libyan. Because since Obama and Clinton went in, they got inaugurated in Libya to rule Libya, the Libyan people have never benefited from their oil, but rather foreign companies are looting the people oil and taking it overseas. Now, the sons of Gaddafi have returned. But he returned and he's playing his political game very well. And now the people are in favor of Gaddafi, some saying that if his father did this and rescued the nation at that time from desert to Greenland and became the most prosperous nation in Africa, in fact, an empire, their belief is the blood of the father run through the son. The character of the father run through the son. The love of the father run through the son. And they believe that the son can rescue them from dictator Obama, from dictator Hillary Clinton. Because Obama is the president for Libya and Hillary Clinton is a prime minister or the general secretary for Libya. They got inaugurated after they killed Gaddafi. And since they came in, they got inaugurated. Hillary Clinton and Obama have been so corrupt. to the extent the people does not want Obama and Hillary Clinton to lead their country again. And now see, since Obama and Hillary Clinton came in, they got inaugurated, and they've been serving this country very, how they call it, benevolent dictatorship or benevolent dictator form of government. And that's what they've been, carry on in our country. The country is destroyed. And now their only hope is for Gaddafi's son to come and rescue them. So Nigeria, pay attention and learn.
Language, and also apologizing to the acts of the military or even personnel that caused the deaths of hundreds of people on the streets of Benghazi and eastern Libya, and also in the streets of Tripoli tonight. But unfortunately, it was
NATO, CIA, and the European intelligence never expected someone would come to take revenge for Gaddafi. Now they are in deep panic because no other than Gaddafi's own son has made a public appearance, and reports suggest he wants to take control of the country. There are also reports of armed clashes in different parts of Libya, suggesting that this time, the bid to take back control is not random, but organized. Now, since Gaddafi's own overthrow was done after a deep propaganda war on Libyans, and after his overthrow, Libya sank into chaos, NATO and CIA's panic is that this time they cannot fight using propaganda. They cannot use the very people of the country to turn against the very leader who wanted to prosper the country, but was toppled and murdered. So, what really is happening? Who is this Gaddafi's son? What does he want? And what is he doing to achieve it? In this video, let's find out.
Hey, Alicia Little here, and I'm excited to announce that the 3rd annual AI and Marketing Summit is here.
Misrata has always been more than another Libyan city. It is the heartbeat of the 2011 uprising that ended Muammar Gaddafi's rule. Now, when gunfire again echoed through its neighborhoods in the spring of 2025, Libyans immediately felt the symbolism. Two groups, the Joint Operations Force and the 24th Infantry Battalion, both nominally loyal to the Tripoli-based government of national unity, suddenly turned their weapons on each other. What outsiders first called a routine militia dispute quickly revealed itself as something deeper. Social media videos showed disciplined formations, vehicles mounted with heavy guns, and coordinated assaults on checkpoints along the airport road. Residents reported fighters using encrypted radios and moving under single-voice orders. This was not the usual street chaos of rival gangs competing for smuggling routes. It looked like a campaign. In Al-Garan district, roads were sealed and civilian traffic stopped, suggesting a deliberate attempt to control strategic corridors. Even longtime observers of Libyan conflicts, accustomed to fragmented skirmishes, noticed the difference in command, planning, and timing. Soon, tribal intermediaries whispered a name that had not been spoken publicly in years: Saif al-Islam Gaddafi. No direct evidence placed him behind the operations, but the pattern was unmistakable. Forces previously hostile to each other were now behaving as if guided by a unifying political message rather than short-term profit. Western intelligence services dismissed the talk as rumor, yet quietly opened investigations, an admission that the rumor mattered. The government's silence was equally telling. Prime Minister Abdulhamid Dbeibah's administration, propped up by Turkish drones and Western recognition, issued no statement for 48 hours. Inside Tripoli, officials feared acknowledging a reality they could not control. That Misrata, the cradle of anti-Gaddafi rebellion, was now doubting the revolution itself. The fighting, therefore, carried more than local significance. It undermined the central narrative used by NATO for 14 years, that foreign intervention had delivered Libyan freedom. With every rocket fired, that story unraveled. The battle ended as suddenly as it began. After mediation, by the 111th Brigade and the 63rd Infantry Brigade. But the ceasefire felt superficial. Beneath the quiet streets, something larger was waking, a search for order after years of imposed disorder. That hunger for structure would soon find its symbol in the figure who had once been Libya's most wanted man. For the West, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi was supposed to be a closed chapter. Captured in 2011, held by the Zintan militia, and condemned to death in absentia, he was officially gone. Yet by 2017, he had slipped from captivity under a negotiated pardon issued by Libya's eastern authorities. No press conference announced it. There was simply a disappearance of guards and a reappearance of whispers. To those who had remained loyal to the Green Movement, his survival felt like fate. To Western diplomats, it was a nightmare deferred. In the barren stretches of the Fezzan Desert, Saif rebuilt contacts through tribal networks that had never accepted the NATO-backed transition. For years, he lived as a phantom, never staying in one village for long, always shielded by elders who saw him not only as a son avenging his father, but as the last hope for a united Libya. When he finally resurfaced publicly in 2021 through an interview, his words were measured, even serene. Libya must belong to Libyans again. Behind the simplicity of that statement lay a direct challenge to every Western power that had profited from the country's collapse. Now, to understand why his reemergence resonates, one must recall what Libya represented under Muammar Gaddafi. The elder Gaddafi had expelled U.S. military bases, nationalized oil to fund welfare programs, and financed Africa's largest irrigation system, the Great Man-Made River. He envisioned a continental currency backed by gold reserves, which threatened the petrodollar system that underpins Western finance. Those ambitions, not the myth of humanitarian concern, drove NATO's decision to remove him. When Tripoli fell, so did a uniquely African model of self-reliance. Saif inherited that legacy, but learned from its downfall. Unlike his father's fiery revolutionary persona, Saif projects quiet rationality. Educated at the London School of Economics, fluent in Western diplomacy, he speaks the language of reform while retaining the substance of resistance. Years in captivity refined him. Humiliation gave him patience. That combination, Western Polish with anti-Western conviction, makes him far more dangerous to the powers that once bombed his home. Among ordinary Libyans, Saif's name now evokes three words long absent from daily life: stability, dignity, and sovereignty. Taxi drivers remember fixed fuel prices. Teachers recall timely salaries. Women recall safety on evening streets. The young, who know only militia rule, see in him the chance for normality. To them, a Gaddafi restoration is not regression, but redemption, a restoration of order after imported chaos. To grasp Western panic, one must look back to 2011's Operation Odyssey Dawn. Publicly sold as a humanitarian mission to prevent massacres, it was in reality an economic preemptive strike. Documents later released through European Parliament inquiries confirm that Gaddafi had been urging African central banks to adopt a gold-backed dinar. Had that currency been launched, oil-rich states from Algeria to Nigeria might have traded outside the dollar system, threatening Western leverage over global markets. Hence, the airstrikes, the no-fly zone, and the narrative of dictator versus democracy. The result was catastrophic. A once centralized welfare state became a fragmented battleground of militias and mercenaries. Slave markets appeared in open daylight. UN data show over 400,000 people displaced. For NATO, however, the goal was achieved. The petrodollar was safe, and Libya's independence was buried. 14 years later, Saif al-Islam's slow return jeopardizes that victory. His network now spans ex-army officers, southern tribes, and political figures disillusioned with Dbeibah's corruption. His slogan, Libya First, Africa United, West Out, encapsulates a worldview utterly incompatible with Western interests. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black Africa.
If you're hearing these words, it's not a coincidence. Something powerful is moving in the...
Let's continue now. A Gaddafi comeback would threaten European access to cheap oil, disrupt migration control deals with Tripoli, and revive the call for an African economic bloc independent of Washington and Brussels. That is why think tanks from London to Washington now publish reports on Gaddafi nostalgia as a security threat. They fear not sentimentality, but accountability. The possibility that Libyans will compare their lives before and after NATO's liberation. The Pentagon's Psychological Operations Manuals
I'm going to talk in between due to copyright actions, so let me not allow the entire video to just play, all right? Because I just received a notification right now. So again, I'm just going to talk in between just for 1 minute or so, right? But again, like I said, we play this video not because we want to anti anybody or we want to run propaganda against anybody, because these are not propaganda, these are reality. All right, these are reality. And we Africans, right, we are so stubborn and hard-headed, and we got to forget the only way Africans keep things, you have to repeat it, keep repeating, 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 keep repeating. Or else, Africans, I mean, the thing will happen, they will see the reality, they will see it and stuff. But once Africans eat, I mean food, once Africans eat food, drink water, right? Have his girlfriend or her boyfriend and have one night, and the next day they wake up from bed, brush your mouth, take shower, it's like it's being washed away. Everything that happened, they forget, it's gone. You have to bring that topic back again to remind them before they get it. All right. And after again, they go on with their daily activity, eat food, drink water, sleep. The next day, wake up, take shower. It's like the wash out membrane is gone. You have to repeat it again. Unlike other people, they see it one time, they know it's against them, they know it's not for them, and they take precaution. African, we are not like that. We are so playful when it comes to be serious. And when it comes to be serious, we become playful. And when it comes to be playful, we become serious. That's the opposite. I don't know what wrong with African. Once it's time to be serious, that's the time we become playful. And once it's time to be playful, then that's the time we want to be serious. So Nigerian, be careful what you are calling for or what you are reaching for. Yes, your leader might be corrupt. Yes, your leader are not sweat or might not be sweat or have not been sweat in tackling the issue of Boko Haram. But you have to understand the underlying factors as to why Nigeria have been slow. Because the same people that fund the Boko Haram, that support Boko Haram, it is the same people that died and won with the authority that told them not to fight Boko Haram. And it is the same people again that stop other nations who want to sell arms and ammunition to Nigeria. Stop those nations and told those nations don't sell arms to Nigeria. And then when Nigeria decided to go to South Africa and say, you know what, these are our brothers and our sisters, they will help us. The same people also influence South Africa and say, hey, let's think, don't try it. The same people did it when African leaders wanted to get in plane to go and meet Gaddafi. They threatened those African leaders not to get in the airspace. So how can those people come back and say they love you? That is not love. That is hate.
No longer apply. Propaganda loses power. once the public has lived through its consequences. Libyans no longer need to be convinced of who destroyed their country. They can see the ruins each morning. Western strategists privately admit that another military intervention is impossible. The global context has changed. Russia, China, and several African Union members now oppose any new foreign incursion. Thus, NATO faces an enemy it cannot bomb, a narrative of self-determination carried by a man it once dismissed as irrelevant. Memory itself has become revolutionary, and Saif al-Islam is its embodiment. To appreciate the gravity of the moment, one must look at Libya's present map, a divided land of power rather than a nation-state. In the east, Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar commands the Libyan National Army with backing from Egypt, the UAE, and Russia's Wagner Group. In the west, Abdulhamid Dbeibah's GNU survives through Turkish drone support and Western diplomatic recognition. The south, vast and sparsely governed, remains a patchwork of tribal councils, smuggling routes, and refugee camps. This fragmentation has
And you see exactly what they did to Libya. One side now ruled by another, and then one side ruled by another. So we have two governments, right? That was the same thing they did with Cameroon. Today, Cameroon have one side French and one side English, that the two people can collaborate. And they did that in 1916 because Cameroon was a German colony. All right, Cameroon was a German colony. And then the French decided to go against the German in Cameroon. And when they did that, the French could not have won the war by themselves. So what the French did, the French called on England, the English, and then they both jumped together. And imagine during this time period, right? We're talking about around World War II, getting to World War II or something, right? During this time period. You know the story about Arthur Hitler. So they did not like Hitler. So the French and the English went together to fight Germany in Africa. That is Cameroon. And then they defeated Germany. Germany, they defeated Germany because it was a German colony. They defeated Germany in 1916. And when they defeated Germany in 1916, the English took one side, the French took one side. And that's how today, from 1916 up to today, you see Cameroon got, one side English, one side German, or French. And that's the same thing they did with Libya here, divide and conquer. So now, for that two, how they call it, people to come together, it's gonna take time. Maybe it might happen in the shortest time because they speak the same language. It's not like they have French and English like the way they have it in Cameroon. So it might happen in a very shortest possible time, but you have to take some level of negotiation. And that's what Gaddafi's son is doing. Trying to negotiate, to talk to the both parties and things. And he's doing it, he's not doing it with the leaders. Again, get that clear. He's not doing it with the leaders. He's doing it with the people. Because once the people are on his side, then it will happen.
Economic and psychological consequences. Infrastructure lies in decay. More than 70% of hospitals operate on generators. Frequent power cuts cripple industry. Universities reopen and close with every new round of fighting. The once celebrated oil sector, responsible for 95% of export revenue, functions under militia extortion, with revenues siphoned through illicit channels to foreign banks. For many families, the dream of democracy has turned into a daily contest for survival. Amid this exhaustion, Saif al-Islam's message sounds pragmatic rather than ideological. He speaks of reconciliation among tribes, revival of state institutions, and gradual disarmament through inclusion rather than force. Unlike the internationally imposed roadmaps that begin with elections and end in renewed conflict, his approach starts with restoring governance first, electricity, salaries, security, then letting political structures evolve organically. It is governance before ballots, dignity before slogans. His careful pace reflects lessons learned from his father's downfall. Rushing modernization without controlling narrative allows outsiders to rewrite history. Therefore, Saif moves silently, cultivating local legitimacy rather than seeking Western recognition. In Fezzan and Sabha, elders already hold meetings under green banners. In Sirte, loyalist networks distribute humanitarian aid under his name. Each small gesture chips away at the authority of Tripoli's foreign-backed administration. Western diplomats warn that such movements risk destabilizing the fragile peace process. Yet Libyans counter that there is no peace to destabilize. The real instability, they argue, began when NATO dismantled the Libyan state in the name of freedom. Rebuilding that state, even under the Gaddafi legacy, therefore represents not rebellion, but restoration. A functioning sovereign Libya would have ripple effects across the region. It could coordinate with Algeria and Tunisia on energy pricing, join Egypt in Mediterranean shipping reforms, and reopen trade corridors to sub-Saharan Africa. Each of these steps reduces European leverage. The geopolitical stakes thus extend far beyond Tripoli. Saif's success could embolden other African nations to challenge neocolonial dependencies. In that sense, Libya's internal struggle mirrors a continental awakening. Do you think the West will allow Gaddafi's son to take back Libya, or will they try to repeat 2011 all over again? If Saif al-Islam truly returns to power, will Libya finally find peace, or will foreign powers create new chaos to stop him? In the comment section, share your thoughts on whether Saif al-Islam is seeking revenge for his father.
Now, we are going to end today's discussion with a video with a message from Abraham Traore, because those are the leaders we will continue to speak about. Currently, as we speak, those are the three perfect leaders: Abraham Traore, Tiani, and Keita we have on the African continent. And then maybe the Ghanaian president, Mahama. And then maybe the Namibian president, for now, the female general. And then maybe the Botswana president. That's it. So let's get a message from Abraham Traore as to the solutions for the African. Again, this is a platform. We don't come here with presentation. We speak about an issues without finding solution. If we don't have a solution, we will leave it until we find solution to the topic. Now, that may not be the exact solution, but at least it's something that we need to work on. So this is the solution to what we have discussed today.
Listen to this. Africa, if you add up the 55 countries of the African Union, that's about 1.5 billion people, same size as India, same size as China. The big difference is that the imperial powers divided Africa into 55 little countries, not one of which can thrive on its own, whereas India and China, because of the history, remained unified countries.
Do you think this will change in the future? They will unite?
They have to. So I tell them every single time I have the opportunity that the African Union is the key. As 55, you can't make it. But as one African continental economy, you can make it. So what's happening now is Africa's population is continuing to rise. It's the only place in the world with rapid population growth.
And all the other are declining.
Everyone else has peaked or just about to peak or actually beginning a decline. Africa's population today is 1.5 billion. By 2050, it'll be 2.5 billion. That's a lot, adding 1 billion people in the next quarter century. If you go even farther and just try to extrapolate based on current trends, Africa's population reaches about 3.5 billion, and according to the UN most recent forecast, 3.7 billion by the end of the 21st century. And Africa goes from being 9% of the world population to being more than 30% of the world population. It's going to be a completely different world. What do I say to African leaders every time I have the chance? First, be Africa-wide. Second, get on quickly with mass education, because that is the key to the economic development. Third, look at what China did. Follow that model.
Do you agree with him?
You know, King, it's true. I know we already know, right? But you know, we Africans, right? Like I keep saying in this video, we are very hard-headed. We are hard to deal with. And you know, what we need to take serious, we take it out of fun. And what we need to take out of fun, we take it out of serious. And our leaders, you know, you and myself, right? We know. But again, we are not at a position to make those decisions. But I bet if you and myself are to be at that place, trust me, we will make our decision very swiftly. But the people that are there, they are the problem. And that's why we play some of these things, so that we live, you know, in a, how they call it, social media war now, in a technology's war, right? They see these things. They are on the internet. These leaders are on the internet. Despite what? They are on the internet. They see some of these things, you know. So we have to continue to, you know, play some of these things so that they can come across it. And that's how we play these things. You know, we can't ignore it. The truth, if we know, and most of these dealers, they know. Absolutely. See the AES. You think these corrupt leaders don't see what the AES are doing? They see it. But some of them, they want to be in position. You know, I wish, oh my God, I wish Nkrumah could be alive today. This is what Nkrumah wanted. Nkrumah told, at that time, who was the president? I'm just forgetting his name. In Guinea. I think Kone. Yeah. Nkrumah told him and other African leaders, if it will cause for me to resign as the president of Ghana, I will resign. If it will cause me to be prime minister or governor of Ghana, I will resign and be governor of Ghana, so that we can have one unified president. Nkrumah. You see, so the leaders are the people to do this. But some of these leaders, they are so content with a colonial bolus and colonial definition. They know what is going on in the AES. I mean, these people are coordinating, but despite they still control their nation. Burkina Faso is still being controlled by by Abraham Traoré. Mali, Tiani, or Gaeta, or Niger. But they coordinate to the extent they came out with one passport. And now I think they even came out with one currency. But they are still leaders. This is what we're talking about. Because the next thing that's going to happen in our region, right? And it is going on now. The army are collaborating, or they are together. And then they are fighting the terrorists together in our region. And that's what we're talking about. It doesn't mean, and my brother, you're saying the truth. These leaders are the problem. It doesn't mean when you do these things, you will not still get money. Your account will not stay. In fact, I can tell you, if these leaders stop chasing crumbs, if these leaders stop chasing loan, they will be 10 times richer than chasing this loan and chasing World Bank. Because look at Mali now. Mali got reserve of their resources of gold. cotton. They have it. Look at Burkina Faso now. They have reserve of gold. Where the mineral is being used or are being used for the people. From kindergarten all the way to college is free. Kindergarten all the way in Burkina Faso is free. It's because of the resources. So we can do it, my brother. And that's why we play some of these videos. It's not because of you and myself. It's these leaders. So that they can see these white people speaking. You see? So let's see Abraham Traoré here. Let's see what Abraham Traoré said, our great leader. The solution to the African problem.
And no one can tell our story better than we can. For a long time, they were the ones who said what they wanted about Africa. They were the ones who said what they wanted about the black man. Now it's time to say no to that and tell it like it is. And I encourage you to pursue this project, which we will support. We are fighting for Africa. We are fighting for the black man. We are fighting for the dignity of Africa, fighting for the well-being of our people, just as they fight for the dignity and well-being of their own. We, too, have something in our hearts. We stand wholeheartedly with all peoples who fight for justice, for equality, for well-being. And we are friends to all peoples who respect us and who respect our sovereignty and our dignity. To see Africa awakening is a nightmare for some. But Africa is awakening, and Africa will awaken. Despite their wishes, despite what they have thought and said of Africa, as a land of slaves, a cursed land, we will not be complicit in making their lies come true. We will tell them that Africa is a continent of hope, a continent of resilience, and a continent of the future. And we will fight for that. Some will say it is impossible for Africa to catch up, to awaken. They told us the same when we sought to take charge of our own destiny, that it was impossible to do what we wanted. Others discouraged us. They always cited examples of African heroes they had killed, telling us that those heroes tried but failed, to make us believe that our struggle was in vain. But we have said, impossible is not African. Impossible was African. Our grandparents, our ancestors, suffered greatly. There is no people in the world who have endured what Africans have endured. No people can claim to have survived after all the ordeals that black people have gone through: colonization, slavery, the Arab-Muslim conquest. Here in Africa, we have known every form of humiliation, every kind of attempt to exterminate us. They sought to erase the black gene because it was the brave youth they always killed and deported. Thus, the African is the most resilient being in the history of humanity.
The descendants of the formerly enslaved you see today, they are the renegades who said, we know the truth about Burkina Faso, and that no one is going to tell us not to go home to Burkina Faso. It is here in Burkina Faso that we shall conclude the journey of return. And all of you are bringing with you the spirits of your ancestors to put them back to rest right here in Burkina Faso. So, Mr. President, we're here to show our solidarity with the Sahel nations. Discussions pertaining to establishment of a Pan-African television and a Pan-African radio station, which is going to be based right here in Burkina Faso. We felt that was a good place to start in order to counteract the negativity coming out of Western media. We need to undo the lies. We need to undo the misinformation. Children of Africa at home and in the diaspora deserve to know the truth and nothing but the truth. There are many other issues that are in the resolution which shall be presented to you through the Foreign Ministry. But in our resolution, we were committed. And we are showing our solidarity, and we are letting the world know, as a united front of African diaspora, we support the Sahel nations. Nos frères et sœurs afro-descendants.
Our African
Afro-descendant brothers and sisters did not only want to remember, they want to act, to invest, to build and to pass on. Their initiative touches on essential fields: education, health, innovation, tourism, culture, sustainable agriculture, and community investments. This is a sign of fraternity, a movement of active solidarity that goes beyond words to become action. Comrade President, this is what I find, together, in the vision you embody for our country and our continent. That of a sovereign, united Africa, aware of its strength and proud of its identity. In coming to meet you, our brothers and sisters wish to salute your courageous and inspiring leadership, that of a head of state who embodies the African Renaissance, the reclaiming of our collective dignity, and the rewriting of the African narrative by its own children.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for hanging on, and thank you so much for being there. This is today's message that we have part 2 to what we discussed last week. It is not about US coming to save Christians' life in Nigeria, but it is about countering China in Nigeria. It is about the resources. It is about our mineral. The colonialists, the enslaver, they have not changed. They said something in the 1884 Berlin Conference, that which we should not and cannot forget. They said we should stay there in Berlin, Germany, in their hidden treasure. They said, those that were in our meeting, they said, our children, our descendants, those that were in our meeting, they are children today. They say their descendants will make sure the Africans that were enslaved at that time, both home and abroad, they say those Africans at that time, their descendants, we today, will never ever get a chance to rise, because their descendants who are today alive will make sure the descendants, we today of Africa, of black people, the black race, will never ever unite. And J. Hugo said that also in the 20th century, when he said Negro unity was a threat to the descendant of the people that enslaved Africans. When he said Negro unity would be a threat to the descendant of the people that colonized Africa, he said Negro unity would be a threat to the people, descendant, who systematically, directly or indirectly, kill Africans' great leader. J. A. Hugo said Negro unity will be a threat to their existence. So in other words, J. Hugo was repeating what was said in the 1884 Berlin Conference, when they said they will make sure Africa and her descendant will never ever rise. But those words that they spoke will never come to reality. We will rise. We will speak to our ancestor. The same way they speak to their forefather, we will speak to our forefather. We will not speak to the white Jesus. We know the Jesus we will speak to. Because our forefather told us, even in our grave, just call our name. Before the white man came with that white Jesus and said, white Jesus is everywhere, just call his name and things will happen. Our forefather has spoken those words already to us and said, even in our grave, call on our name. We will be there. And we shall come and fight for you. So every word they spoke, it will not come to pass. We will rise. Africa will rise. And the descendants of Africans will rise. Will unite. Ooh. Share, subscribe, and like. Let us build. Peace. See you.
The white power structure, because that's all we have in America. And the white power structure today is just as much interested in perpetuating slavery as the white power structure was 100 years ago. Only now they use modern methods of doing so. And realizing that the black people in this country are waking up and becoming filled with a desire to be looked upon as men and as human beings. The white power structure to slow down that